Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon Howse.
And good evening. Welcome on this June 19th, 2025. Well, we have news tonight. The Trump administration is going to boost monitoring of possible Iran-backed terror cells in the U.S. Well, that's exactly what we've been warning about for weeks and weeks. I'm finally glad someone in the mainstream media is going to talk about it, because if America is going to get involved, this has been one of my big sticking points. Are the American people ready for what could happen? We can't be talking about getting involved in an offensive way. I have no problem with a defensive, being involved defensively. As I've said, intelligence, selling them weaponry, whatever. I don't want boots on the ground. I am a Christian Zionist. But guess what? I'll bless those who bless you. I'll curse those who curse you is not talking about the Israeli government, every government that comes and goes. It's the Jewish people. And it's also understanding the blessing they'll be to us through their heritage, which gave us the line of Messiah, right? So I stand with the Jewish people. I'm a Christian Zionist. You're not going to find anyone else that has this strong, a long history in broadcasting with documentaries and radio shows and TV shows and books defending the Jewish people. But that doesn't mean I agree with every government that comes and goes in Israel. But should we be involved defensively? I have no problem with that. Helping them knock down missiles coming in? No problem with that. Boots on the ground? No. And if we do this offensively, which again, Benjamin Netanyahu is saying tonight, we can do it all on our own. I'd say let them do it then. Let them do it. But if we get involved, have we prepared the American people? Because if we don't, it's going to be a backlash onto President Trump and his administration, and it's going to be a boomerang onto Israel. Israel's going to get blamed for everything, and anti-Semitism will skyrocket. If we haven't informed the American people about what's at risk. And again, if we're going to put a lot of money and effort and energy into fighting them over there, why not here? That's why I wrote my article the other day about this schizophrenic policy between national, domestic, and international. We have mosques all over this country preaching jihad and overthrowing the government, going to Sharia. And we coddle them. We even got NGO money, I'm told, government money. We let them do this right here. But then we act like the real enemies overseas. Well, there is an enemy overseas with Islam, yes. But if we're not going to do anything about them here in our country, on our soil, then why are we worrying about them over there? We have to be consistent. But at least someone in the mainstream media tonight is talking about this. I'm going to get on this with Shahram Hadian. Then I'm going to have on David Pine for an update. I'm going to have on Annie for an update. And then I'm going to have on Dr. Bashima Williams to talk about anxiety. You have any anxiety, folks? In all this crazy world, you have any anxiety, stress? Maybe you're like, well, I don't have a lot of anxiety, but I have stress. Okay. Do you know how to literally help your body reset? How you help your body reset and reset your brain? We'll talk about that tonight. I'm not talking goofy, stuff. I'm not talking yoga and transcendental meditation and all that stuff. I'm just talking about naturally how your body helps to reset itself into a relaxed stage versus a very hyper setting stage. That's a very interesting conversation tonight with a functional medicine doctor, an MD, Dr. Bashima Williams. All right. We'll get into all that. First up is Shahram Hadian. Shahram, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Brannon. Great to be back with you again.
Look at this headline from CBS News. Trump administration boosts monitoring of possible Iran-backed cells in U.S. as Trump waves strikes, sources say. FBI Director Kash Patel has increased efforts to monitor possible domestic sleeper cells linked to Hezbollah. That's Iran, obviously. There you go. This is exactly what we have been talking about for weeks and weeks. The American people need to be prepared. This is why we were saying, hey, we need an address from the Oval Office talking about the threats here, and then we got to deal with these threats. And the more we get involved with our ally Israel, the more threats rise here. So we have to be taking care of the home front. And while we deal with our ally and help our ally in an offensive manner. But I'm still saying no boots on the ground. And I'm saying if Benjamin Netanyahu says, hey, I can do this on my own, which he came out and said today, I say, God bless him, let him do it. I think it'll help set up Bible prophecy by making them a stronger nation, which is why I think you'll have to have a coalition of nations coming against Israel and Ezekiel. So I think that would actually be good for Israel to be bold and strong, that they didn't have to lean on us too much, right? But tonight, this report by CBS News. Now, what is your thoughts on this?
Well, I have several thoughts. First of all, you're absolutely right. This is exactly what we've been warning about, not just for this year, but for multiple years.
Yep.
Brannon, you and I have been talking to, I mean, we go back to the days of Congresswoman Sue Myrick, when we had her on your program. I think she was on your program, where we covered her warning back then about the hundreds of Hezbollah cells coming through the southern border, coming in from Venezuela. They were getting passports through Venezuelan passports. They, look Hispanic. So this has been a concern for many, many years, and that they were waiting for the right time. And remember, I said to you last week when I was on with you that my greatest concern was not Iran being able to hit America with a ballistic missile, hypersonic missile, and even maybe the concept of a dirty bomb. The greatest concern was proxies, was domestic terror cells, was those who were here who are lying in wait. And now they're even more dangerous, because if they are not able to communicate directly, these cells are now on their own. The problem is that there has not been the communication from both within the government, the media, and even Christians who should be understanding this is a real threat to America. And the second point, I 100% agree with you. Number one, let Israel go at it. Let them finish what they have started, what I believe is his calling right now for Netanyahu, for Israel. And number two, where is the focus on the homeland? Remember I said the other night, you get rid of Iran. Okay, you got rid of this regime. What about the Pakistanis in America? What about the Muslim Brotherhood? What about the Egyptians? What about the Turks? What about all the other fronts that we face from the red-green axis that ought to be top priority? And exactly right, a cornered Iran is the most dangerous, because in fact, Brannon, right before you called me to come on tonight, I was talking to one of my sources from Iran. And they're not in Iran currently, they're out, but was giving me an update. The regime there is beginning to, now when I say regime, IRGC, whoever is left standing, they're beginning to kill Iranians, they're beginning to kill Christians in the prisons. They are ready to burn the house down. They're not going to leave with the house standing. And if they're that desperate there, then guess what they're going to do here? So that plays into exactly the concern that you're bringing up.
Well, that's the headline tonight from the Daily Mail. That's the headline tonight from CBS News. So that's the Daily Mail, okay?
Right.
This is CBS News, okay? Now let me show you another headline. Border Patrol agents shut down massive drug smuggling tunnel between Tijuana and San Diego, okay?
Right.
Now that's tonight, June 19th. We mentioned this, I think I did yesterday, briefly on one of my broadcasts, because here we have pictures of these, okay? We have pictures of these. 3,000-foot drug smuggling tunnel between Tijuana, Mexico, and San Diego, equipped with lighting, ventilation systems, and tracks to move narcotics.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, they say they discovered it while it was actually actively under construction, but that doesn't mean they still couldn't gotten something through. And this is just probably one of many. But this is what we have talked about in our broadcast before. The cooperation between the drug cartels and the terrorists, right? Yes. And Dave Govitz, who went and did this work for us in Texas with Epic and these other things, and gave our sworn affidavit report, has said on this radio show many times that these cartels, they want money. Todd Bensman have said they just want money. They'll gladly take the money of China, Iran. They work with China already, which is an alliance with Iran. They work with China to get the chemicals for the precursor chemicals for fentanyl. You telling me that these same terror cells terror tunnels aren't being used by terror cells? How do we know terror cells aren't helping the drug cartels build them and pay for them if they also get to use them? So we don't know what's here. We have already the CCP, 2 people being caught coming through with biological chemicals. What else is here when you have, as G. Von Fleet said the other night, and as Gordon Chang has said, and other experts, the CCP is behind this too. This is not an isolated, Iran's out there. They are in a military and economic alliance with other enemies, including North Korea, China, etc. So here we now have these terror cells.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly
these tunnels that can be used by these terror cells to come in and bring stuff in here.
Yeah, exactly. First of all, where do we see those terror cells, right? We see them in Gaza. We've seen them on the northern border of Israel. This is where they're learning from. I believe that this technology that the cartels are using has come from Hezbollah, has come from the proxies of Iran. Again, working with Venezuela, working with China. We saw how many flights now? 4 flights, 5 flights that have gone from China into Iran that then all of a sudden they get over the country of Iran and they go off the radar. We don't know what is in those planes. What is being shared? Is it military? Is it technology? Now, here's what we do know. The problem is that our law enforcement is woefully prepared for this threat because for years we have decimated the understanding, the ideology, the tactical approach of these type of sleeper cells, whether they're Iran proxies, from this regime in Iran, i.e. Hezbollah, as you said, or whether they're connected to China, working with the Syrians, working with the Afghanis, working with the Pakistanis. When we cannot even recognize the threat ideology of those who say we want to kill you, we're going to take you over, we're going to sabotage you and destroy your house, as the Muslim Brotherhood has said in America, we then turn and we say our greatest threat is violent extremism. Our greatest threat is white supremacy. Our greatest threat is domestic terrorism, where we can count on one hand the number of white supremacists in this country that are roaming around. But we have no clue, Brannon, how many of these cells are truly in America. And I'm not sure that this FBI, remember, this is the same FBI that allowed Garland, Texas to happen, that did not warn Pamela Geller. This is the same FBI that has done nothing when we sent in the letters of all the threats that you and I got of throwing acid in our faces and our wives' faces and God forbid. This is the same FBI.
Which did nothing, and said to us, oh, well, we have to have an actual, when we got these threats, it was like, well, we have to have an actual specific threat. And then when they got specific and we called them back, they said, oh, well, we'll send that over. And we did. And then they called back, oh, well, we can't do anything. I mean, they lied to us. They lied to us all along the way.
Yeah. So they are not prepared. That's what keeps me up at night. And oh, by the way, and this is, I know lots of people out there like their favorite preacher or their favorite prophet, but you got people coming online right now, some well-known pastors going out there saying, I got a prophetic word that there are sleeper cells in America.
Oh, wow, that's so prophetic. Yeah,
it's so prophetic.
Yeah, it's so prophetic. There's books and TV shows and everything about it for a gazillion years, ding-a-ling.
Exactly. We've been warning about this for a decade, if not more, and we've been saying this since last year, that this was our greatest concern this summer, was these proxies and sleeper cells in America, whether from Iran or whether in coalition with other countries. So listen, to the point of what you said the other day, we haven't heard anything. Okay, at least thank God we're hearing something now. At least they're saying we're monitoring. But what are you going to do about it? I mean, if you're monitoring, what are you going to do to proactively shut them down? Do they have to wait till they act before they say, oh, now we're going to? So I hope that's not the case.
And can you imagine what one even if they did a dirty bomb, which again,
Right.
I'm not going to tell people how you make one. I'm not sure I would know fully how to do it. Obviously, I don't know how to do it. But I do know that you can take things that are used in hospitals and X-ray rooms and use what is left over when those things are picked up and disposed and done away with. If people get their hands on certain used medical equipment, they can use that, as I understand, in a dirty bomb. Now, a dirty bomb, for those who maybe don't know, an explosion goes off and it throws radioactive material into the air. And it will only affect that small area, which is, of course, obviously a problem for those who are affected by it, breathe it in, right? But the damage would not be anywhere near like a nuclear device, but the psychological damage. So even if you had 4 or 5 dirty bombs go off in major cities in the U.S. on the same day, the psychological impact on the country, that's what part of terrorism is about, right? And then what it would do to your economy and everything else. And then, of course, God knows what would happen after that as far as our own government using it to strip us of more liberties and freedoms like the Patriot Act. So we have to pray that none of this happens because the Lord is in charge, right? But we know that we live in a sinful, fallen world. And God starts to remove his hand of protection when we don't obey him, as our nation has done. We don't always obey him. I don't always obey him. But when a nation as a whole starts doing those things over and over, suppressing the truth and unrighteousness, celebrating LGBTQ and all these kind of things, then God starts removing his hand, and then God just steps back and lets people do what's in their simple heart. God's not the author of evil or confusion and doesn't cause these things to happen, but he may remove his hand of protection. So this is why it's so important that we bring a Christian and biblical worldview to all areas of life, right? But even a simple dirty bomb in a couple cities could wreak havoc psychologically on the country. It doesn't even have to be a full-fledged small nuclear device.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's exactly what my concern was, is that in the desperation of this regime, and I know we don't have time right now to talk about what I think the White House is signaling.
Well, give it to me in the Cliff Note version. What are they signaling? They're going to wait maybe 2 weeks, but that could be 2 days, not 2 weeks.
Yeah, right. Well, first of all, it's the 2-week statement, that it could be up to 2 weeks, which in my opinion, could be signaling that we really don't want to do anything as far as hitting Fordo, as far as, giving the 30,000-pound bombs or whatever. Maybe they're going to help with defending Israel, at least with Iron Dome or with other technology that needs to be there. But my concern is that now I'm hearing from these influencers like Charlie Kirk and other people. Nikki Haley came out today. No regime change. We cannot have regime change. We cannot be about regime change. Now, I said, remember when we were on with Hedier, right? The other night we were on last week, earlier this week. We said U.S. sucks at regime change, right? I don't want the U.S. picking who comes, but I do believe that the U.S. should support regime change morally.
If we don't do a regime change, in my opinion, this is all for naught.
And not only all for naught, it's going to get worse, because now you have this regime that is ramped up. Again, in the call that I had before you called me, before we came on, my sources telling me things in Iran in the last 7 days have got 100 times worse for the Iranians, because this regime is absolutely right now going brutal. They know the end is coming, and they're going to burn the whole house down. They told me that Christians are now being murdered in the prisons. The Christians that have been in jail, they're now being murdered. They're systematically picking up people who anybody, that's why they shut off the internet, right? They shut off the internet. Also, they shut off the internet because that way the warnings that Israel's trying to give, because we just got word that they may be hitting Rasht, which is the northern part of Iran where I was born, right on the Caspian Sea. Israel has given a warning that we're going to hit some sites up there. But if there's no internet, how is that going to get to the people? How are they going to get out of harm's way? And if they're rounding up anybody. So already he's saying the level of brutality has gone up tenfold, maybe 100-fold. So this is the only moment. This is the moment. And for the United States, potentially, and these right-wing influencers like Charlie Kirk to come out and say, we cannot engage in regime change. If you're saying we don't pick, sure, I agree with that. But if you're saying we're not going to support regime change right now, even if the Iranian people want it, And even on Fox News last night, and I hate that, I don't even try to watch them very much anymore, but, Jesse Waters and these guys coming out, no, they're not going to support Reza Pahlavi. I talked to my source in Iran who said the majority of the people will get behind Reza Pahlavi because there is a transition plan. I don't believe that Pahlavi wants to be able to be the king again, but he can come in and facilitate an interim government. And of course, you saw some of the rumblings today that there potentially are some defections coming out of the army over to Pahlavi. Again, according to him, he's claiming that he's being contacted by those outside the country and inside the country saying, we're ready to back you. But if America gets in the way, Lord help us.
Yep. And then finally, I have to let you go, I know, but look at this. Fox News 11 in Los Angeles reports that more than 95 tunnels have been decommissioned in the San Diego area since 1993. That's just the San Diego area. Think about all the different tunnels and what is here. So here's the thing. We don't know what's here. And national intelligence guys who've had a corner office with 600 agents answering to them who are friends of mine, he's now retired, but he told me then, we don't know what's here. We have no clue what's here. And this is why we were saying we need to prepare the American people. And I felt like that was not going on. The American people were not being told about what they need to prepare for. One last thing. Look at this. This is crazy. September 12th, 2024, Iran turns to Hell's Angels and other criminal gangs to target critics. I mean, how many people know about this?
That's crazy. That's crazy. I had not even seen that. That's crazy.
And remember, it was Dave Gobbets who said that in the mosque, they were telling them to go out and partner up with the gangs who have the submachine guns and all these things. So I would have never thought, hey, guys on biker gangs, you might want to be leery of them, particularly someone like you and myself who are critics. I wouldn't think I'd be looking for someone, maybe looking a little more Islamic. But now you got to wait a minute, what biker gang is that you might have good grief, the local town.
That one is out there. That one is out there. But the gangs is not out there. Again, if the cartels and all the gangs that are, remember, the number one area of conversion to Islam is in the prisons, and the number one group of those conversions are gang members. So that has been a fact for a number of years. And it remains a huge concern, the inner working, because like you said earlier, well said, the cartels, they're just about money. They don't have an ideological dog, or skin in the game. They're about the money. It's Islam that has the ideology, and we're still woefully, again, I see this today, this announcement, okay, we're monitoring. What does that mean? And are you going to proactively do something? And I'm still waiting for, is the president going to come out and say, we need to be heightened now, right now, in America, both Jews, both Christians, and anybody that is freedom loving needs to be heightened for all this red-green axis threat.
100%.
It's wishful thinking, but at least I guess we have a step in the right direction. But Lord help us. We got to pray for his divine protection right now.
Amen. TILministry.com. I know you have another appointment. TILministry.com. TILministry.com. Thank you, Sharam.
Thank you, brother. God bless you.
You too, my friend. Hey, the program has just gotten underway. Look what Melissa just brought me into the studio. She brought me what I drink every night, and that is every day I take my Gataton. I give half a scoop to Dolly on her food, and this is one little scoop, and it's a teeny scoop. It's the equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. 5 clinical trials behind this as well, loaded with all kinds of amino acids. It's got trace minerals. It's got all the protein, all these great things that are needed for you. Yeah, go ahead, throw that up there. That's I love that article coming out of Canada a few years ago. Remember that article? Is that the best one you got? That's a little dark, isn't it? Oh, that's just part of the ad. All right, I think I got a better picture than that one if I can find it real quick. This is the man that developed it. He was given a terminal diagnosis. And so he started just eating the phytoplankton that he was raising for shellfish. And then when he went in for a biopsy, they're like, you're 11 of them, by the way. They're benign. It was benign. And so he went on to live another 10 years. I'm not making claims. I'm just telling you, man, figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. That's the headline. Well, Dave Hunter was working with Tom Harper, that man that went on to live another 10 years, retired in Hawaii, we're told. And we've played the interview of his daughter and him talking about it. That's when Dave Hunter started Global Plankton Alliance. So I take it every day. MelissaHowseGPA.com. MelissaHowseGPA.com. Combine this with my Bella Grace and my Numi. These are the three things I do every day, folks. All right. So I'll set that over there and finish that during the break. But please go there, MelissaHowseGPA.com, MelissaHowseGPA.com. Now, if you want to get a hold of the Bella Grace, which I, again, take that every day, that's at MelissaHowseBG.com. MelissaHowseBG.com. This is a powerful elixir. I take it every day. Collagen with the peptides cut short so your body actually absorbs it. Astaxanthin, that crosses the brain-blood barrier to take on the free radicals in your system. And then it has the cat's claw. That is a bark from a vine in Peru that helps to take out inflammation. A lot of our problems are inflammation related, aren't they? So there you go. You got your Gatatana, you got your Bella Grace, and then the third thing I do is my glutathione. I swish with this for 3 minutes every day. Now, if I feel like I have something coming on and getting sick, I'll swish with this every hour on the hour, because this is glutathione, which is a natural, all natural occurring molecule in your body that starts to decrease around age 20, according to studies I've read. In fact, there are 165,000 studies on glutathione at PubMed. 165,000 studies. So swish with it for about 3 minutes. That way it gets into your system within 90 seconds and it's not broken down. You can go get an IV for about $250, but they say it's broken down when you do that. Swish with it and you're getting it in its totality within 90 seconds. And then after swishing for 3 minutes, you can spit it out or swallow it, whatever you want. And fact studies show it may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. So 3 great ways to support your health tonight, folks. Bella Grace, Gatatana, and Numi. All of them, by the way, are available for you. If you go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, you'll find out about all of them. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. July 6, 2005. This is Tom Harper. Man figures plankton stopped his rare cancer. We got more of a response from our viewers than anything else you and I have ever discussed.
Tom Harper, 20 years ago, he had mesothelioma, deadly lung cancer, was given weeks to live, and he just intuitively started to eat the phytoplankton out of his fish tanks because he fed the phytoplankton to his shellfish. He was a shellfish farmer. And when he went in for the surgery, the surgeon came out of the operating room and told his family, I have not ever seen anything like it. The cancer is benign, and Tom Harper lived for years. He retired in Hawaii. We're not making any claim.
Here he is in his own words.
Started on a daily routine of just taking a bit of paste, putting it in my mouth, and wash it down with a drink of water. Within about 10 to 15 days, here I am, less pain in my back. I knew that something was going on, so I just kept eating half a teaspoon of this paste a day. I was booked to go for surgery in Victoria where they were going to do what they call a talc treatment. They went in there to have a look, saw something they'd never seen before, took 11 sites, sent them away for biopsy. I got the news back. Everything was benign. They just did not know what to make of it. Everything was absolutely clean. And I've tried dieting all my life because I'm a diabetic. If it's a coincidence or not, I don't know. My blood sugar started dropping. My weight started falling off. Here I am, no longer requiring insulin, and I was taking 88 units a day of insulin. I can eat just about what I want in moderation, and I have no elevated sugar levels, and I feel fabulous.
People, you hear the word cancer, and they want you to be instilled with fear. Cancer is nothing but a profound failure of the immune system. And what happened with Tom Harper is the phytoplankton is microscopic. It's God's microscopic food. And the Gatatana is the most nutritionally comprehensive strain phytoplankton in the world. David Hunter studied phytoplankton for 20 years because he worked for Tom Harper and he was there in person and witnessed Tom's recovery. It's about getting pure nutrition inside your cells. And what happens, your body balances again or goes back to homeostasis. And when your body is pH balanced or in homeostasis, disease can't grow. It is literally microscopic, pure single cell plant food with protein and omega-3 fatty acids, omega-6 fatty acids, with amino acids and vitamins and minerals. One scoop a day. There's 90 billion plant cells in here just for everyday nutrition and energy and, cognitive support, because this is God's pure nutrition.
Go to melissahousegpa.com today. Discover the science and learn more about the wonderful benefits of Gaditana phytoplankton. That's melissahousegpa.com. melissahousegpa.com.
Joining me now is Annie Cyrus to give us an update on the latest that's going on in Iran. Annie, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me back, Brannon.
All right, so where are we at? Benjamin Netanyahu is saying he can do it alone. That's what's being put out there in the press. So I say let him do it and let's support him.
Well, technically, Brannon, if you think about it, he already did it alone. What's left? Seriously, let's go over the list. What is left to do as far as military action?
Go ahead and kill Khomeini and be done with that.
Well, yes, killing Khomeini would be the icing on the cake. Then the cake is ready on the table. There are scrambling so badly inside Iran, from messages of armed force sent to their own soldiers, from morality police all over the streets of every province. You can see that I have received voicemails and direct calls. I have also listened to calls to other networks, Farsi-speaking networks. I can tell you probably, Brannon, over 1,200 audio files that I'm translating right now of direct support for Prince Pahlavi, direct support for Israel, and praising them to finish the job. People are ready to go. They're done. They are announcing that we are watching them have no power over us anymore.
You say the morality
this all
police.
Happened today.
What did you say about the morality police, though?
They are on the streets trying to arrest people. But guess what? People are beating them up. They are getting beat up by people. Like, the fear has lifted from the nation.
Wow.
People aren't even doing the uprising on the streets anymore. They're casually walking or driving, and when they're stopped by the morality police, they just beat them up.
Wow.
Probably if you search quickly on X, you find a bunch of videos of them being beat up by people.
Logan, can you see that real quick? Yeah.
What Netanyahu just did in last 7 days have lifted 500 layers of fear from the entire nation after 46 years. That's what I call he already did it by himself.
So what do you make of the White House press secretary coming out today saying that President Trump will make a decision on Iran within the next 2 weeks? That could be tonight, tomorrow, or 13 days from now. What do you make of that comment?
I'll say he already made his decision, and she already announced it. We're not getting involved. It's the unspoken decision that was made already. There is no other way to take this, especially when it closes with leaving opening for negotiation.
Mm-hmm.
He already made his decision. He's not getting involved. Now, is it per Netanyahu request, or is it per his own advisors telling him we don't need to get involved? I don't know that part. But I think that announcement today was the decision.
So what's the timetable you're looking at for this? Is this, right now, by the way, when it comes to that one remaining nuclear facility, I guess, they're saying they can do it with humans. So they own the skies. So they drop in humans, put in the detonation, get out, detonate, and boom, that problem's taken care of. So you don't really need the U.S.
Exactly. So we're talking about Fardo, the nuclear site.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
So let's quickly go over where Fardo is. Fardo is a facility, not as the village. It is on northwest of the province Qom. And it is buried, they're guessing, 80 to 100 meters under the Qom mountain. So yes, the only reasonable way to do it is to like go in, boots on the ground, go in and blow it up. As of right now, 2/3 of the military members, IRGC military members who were watching Fardo facility have been called in to other provinces. So they have basically abandoned their post by order. So the security around Fardo isn't even what it was a week ago. And as of right now, based on all the arrests they're making in Iran, they know Mossad is inside Iran. They know it. Otherwise, why would they knock at certain specific doors and drag people out, put them in handcuffs, and they are disappearing, by the way. At the moment, there's
the people that they think have been flipped by Mossad or working with Mossad are disappearing?
Exactly. Exactly. Today, there was a mother whose both sons were picked up 3 days ago and their bodies were returned today. Do we know for a fact if they were, from the calls I have heard today, Brannon, I think 70% of Iranians are working with Mossad now. You have no, then when I have these translated, I'll send you a few of them. They're literally calling with, everybody has stopped talking about how good or bad Israel or Netanyahu is. Can you just all hold on until they finish what they're doing here, and then you can all pick a fight with them again? That's the level Iranian people are at. They don't even want to hear anything good or bad about Israel or Netanyahu. They just want them to finish. And then people can take the country back. Easily 60% of those calls finish the call with, we can't wait to see Prince Pahlavi in Tehran. We can't see Prince Pahlavi in Tehran. So there you go. That's the support behind Pahlavi now.
What do you make of those who say that he's and his family been out of Iran too long and don't really have any ability to run the nation? What do you make of people saying that? You've heard that, right?
I have heard that. And me being me, my response has been, I've been out of the country pretty much as close as they've been out, right? But my reporting is still spot on. My guesses about what's going to happen are spot on, and I'm connected to Iranian people. It's not about how long you've been out of a country. It's about how close you stayed in touch with them. And both our queen and Prince Pahlavi have been in touch with Iranians this whole time. Policy hasn't changed. This is the same enemy that destroyed the Pahlavi family. They don't need to know what happened in the last 46 years. They know the enemy. They faced it. But they lost the battle because Western countries got behind their enemy. So they don't need extra knowledge, Brannon. They already know the enemy they're facing. As far as Prince Pahlavi not having actual real-life experience of governing, I agree with that. However, as I said, he has his mother who was behind King Pahlavi, Shah Pahlavi, while he was building the country and going through the white revolution. So she's there to help.
Are you still there, Annie?
Yes, can you still hear me?
Yep, got you. Well, and I would say also, President Trump didn't have any experience until he was president for the first time.
Exactly. Exactly. And let's not mention, it's a added bonus. This is not my thought. I shouldn't take credit. Another Iranian reporter brought this up, and I learned from them, and I agree with them. Never thought of it. But isn't this an advantage when you have Prince Pahlavi, who completely understands our culture, our music, our history, speaks the language fluently, writes and reads the language, however, grew up in America and partially in Europe, understanding the Western culture. His father only knew the culture through training. Prince Pahlavi lived that he assimilated it. You know how much easier it's going to be for him to bring that assimilation into the nation and help Iranians bounce right back to mini America?
So what do you make of this headline by the New York Post tonight? Trump's fear of Iran becoming another Libya stalls decision on nuke site strikes for 2 weeks. Well, first of all, I don't know that was a 2 week. They said within 2 weeks. So I think, that's not really an accurate headline. But what do you make of that? Then he was concerned, well, will our bunker busting bombs even do anything, if we're going to go do this? So what do you think this is really all about? And now some are saying that Israel's running out of interceptors, but then I don't know why people would say that, because didn't we just send and didn't they just receive in the last day another big shipment in Israel from us? I don't think they're running out of interceptors has anything to do with us getting more involved, because we've been sending them more interceptors, have we not?
Oh, yes, we have. And even if we say we haven't, Brannon, what is there left to intercept?
I guess we'll talk about the Iron Dome. I mean, last night they did have a bunch come in, and now they're using... No,
I understand. But the thing is, as of right now, the IRGC cannot handle even firing more than 8 missiles at a time. They're low on missile launchers and they're low on missiles. I'm just playing the devil's advocate here. Yes, we are sending them what they need, and they're not going to run out. But to counter the very, made up illusion of argument, we can say, okay, fine, they don't have the interceptors anymore. But they're not being, it's not night one when Iran fired 300 missiles. They barely made it to 8 in last 24 hours. And let's not mention, again, there are videos that you can easily see. Iranians are walking out of their house in areas of farming areas, and they literally use their phone to show you a Pahad missile mislaunching and landing in their backyards, in their farms. But these are the information our media isn't putting out. They're not showing how weakened the military actions of Iran is.
Here, in fact, I think I found the morality police being confronted. I'm going to see this for the first time with you guys. Here we go. Well, let me plug it in. I think it was plugged in. I got to get the right audio. My audio changed on me. Sound. And then choose which one, Logan? External. Yeah, there it is. All right, here we go. Is that a recent video?
This one I have not seen either, actually. The ones that I've seen is adults beating them up.
It's dated
but
June,
what
June
the girls are saying on that video is, why don't you just leave us alone and go do what you need to do, protect your own, what.
Wow.
But yes, the inside Iran is way worse. There are at least 10 videos of missile launchers. Actually, I think Logan has the most recent missile launcher hit confirmed by Iran's media broadcast video in his email. I sent it earlier for Sharon's show. Mm-hmm. But they are not where, I don't know again who's advising Trump, but they're not anywhere near surviving this. As far as Iran turning into Libya, I almost feel insulted for anyone who thought that. Like, they need to study Iran. They need to understand that. I mean, don't study Iran. Just go on Google and look up the Iranian Americans involved in, some really high places in America, like NASA. Look who holds the highest ranking of mathematician in the world, who is an Iranian American woman. Iran's not going to turn into Libya or Iraq or Afghanistan or any of that. Again, those were forced regime changes. This is not. Since 2009, people of Iran every few years come on the streets, get killed by this regime, and the chant hasn't changed. The chant is death to dictator, death to Khamenei, take your Sharia, leave us alone. There you go. That's the video of the latest missile launcher hit.
What do you make of them striking that hospital last night with these cluster bombs?
That's what they do, Brannon. That's Islamic Republic of Iran. That was on purpose. First of all, they don't have the intelligence that Israel has. They don't really know who's where to go target them. They don't have the equipment to precisely target.
And the word is that's why some of these foreign media outlets were over there giving them coordinates on the ground.
Yes. And we don't talk about them, though, right, Brannon?
Right.
We don't talk about them. But if we help Israel in any shape or form, then, we went to war. No, we didn't. This is how war works, by the way. For your audience who may not be familiar, when Iran-Iraq war was going on for 8 years, guess what? It was Iran against Iraq, backed by American generals giving them a strategy, British generals giving them coordinations, and MEK giving them all the underground tunnels into the country. That's just the way war works.
All right, so the music's playing, hard break. I'll let you go here, but tell me what should we expect over the next few days?
I believe there will be another wave of attack on the armed forces in Iran from Israel. Unfortunately, I think Iran's going to target more civilians in Israel. I hope they just take shelter and stay safe. And I repeat, we will not get involved. We are not going to war. We're fine over here. For now.
LiveUpToFreedom.com, LiveUpToFreedom.com. Be sure to check out her store, LUTFstudio.com, LUTFstudio.com. We'll be right back.
MelissaHousebg.com. Bella
What, babe?
Grace Elixir.
She called me today and she told me something, and I said, you have got to tell the audience this. They need to hear this because it's really good news for those of you that, well, are taking Bella Grace. What happened today?
Well, I went to my hairdresser and I had not told her about this product that I've been taking, and she was blow drying my hair. She said, I just noticed when I was parting your hair and fixing it that you have a bunch of new hair growth. I've been going to this lady for probably 13 years and she's never said that to me. And I had noticed it, but for the fact that she noticed it was, I had to call Brannon right away and tell him.
We have not mentioned this a lot, because we're not going to make claims, okay?
Right.
You can go to the website, you can read the testimonials, you can read the clinical reviews, the clinical trials, but we're not prone to making a lot of claims about the product other than personally.
And I wanted to take it for a while.
And we wanted to take and try it. But we had heard that one of the things this would do...
Well, collagen will grow your hair.
Collagen supposedly grows your hair.
She said, you've never had this before. I don't...
But we had heard that was the testimony of others, but we can't go on that.
She saw it on her own without me even telling her that I was, and then I went on to tell her that I've been taking
what you were
this
taking.
Product, yes.
Own hairdresser said you got more hair and new hair coming in up top.
Yeah, she just said you've never had this like this, and it's growing, and you just have all these baby hairs growing in, and they're kind of curly. And so I just told her that what I was taking, and she was amazed. So
MelissaHousebg.com.
All right, joining me now is David Pine. Now, look, folks, we're on a quest to find out the truth, okay? And we could be one of those networks that only interviews one person with one line, one view, one analysis. Boring. Why would we do that? We could bring on our reporter from on the ground in Israel, Aaron, and let him tell you what he thinks and what he's hearing, what he's seeing, right? We can bring on Annie Cyrus, who has some great analysis, right, from her expertise of being born and raised in Iran and tracking Iran. So we could bring on our Israeli reporter. We could bring on our Iranian expert, Annie Cyrus. But we want to bring in a lot of people with a lot of views. Now, I want to make it very clear to my fellow Christian Zionist friends. We can present information about what the government of Israel, we think, is doing, what we believe the prime minister of Israel is doing, and that doesn't mean we're any less Christian Zionists. I made it very clear. I thought Benjamin Netanyahu was wrong to turn his people over to Pfizer. And we've played the video of him talking about that. Like, are you kidding? I thought it was fake. I thought it was AI. I'm like, he wouldn't really say that. It turned out it wasn't AI. So, nowhere in the Bible that says you have to endorse every Israeli government that comes along. No. We're talking about the Jewish people as a whole, the nation, the people. And by the way, the nation of Israel was spread throughout the world. And then they were brought back together in 1948. But that's the people. Nothing in the Bible says we have to endorse and embrace the government of Israel all the time. No more than we have to embrace and endorse our own government, right? No. So, to my Christian Zionist fellow friends, and I am one, I've tried to be extremely balanced. In fact, I've had people say, you know, Brannon, I love your network because you will present a lot of views and let people gain the information and then make their own assessment. And as a Christian Zionist, you're not somebody just like, I'm just going to go with whatever the government of Israel says. You're very specific. Hey, wait a minute. I support the Jewish people, the Jewish state, the historical biblical right to the land. But that doesn't mean I have to agree with everything the government's doing. And I don't have to agree with what the government's doing to the detriment of my own country. I don't have to say, yeah, let's go to war. And by the way, why not have a draft and my kid can go die and spill his blood in Israel? Where is that in the Bible, right? How is that being a blessing to me? I'll bless those who bless you. I'll curse those who curse you. Well, if I stand with the Jewish people as a whole in their right to a nation, and you're saying, well, by the way, here's your blessing. Your son's going to be ripped off and go and die in the Middle East. Well, thanks for that. That was a real blessing. No, that's not what it says. It doesn't say anything about that. Now, if Israel wants to go to war and they want to lay their lives down for that, that's great. No more than I would expect the Israeli IDF or Israeli families to send their kids to America to fight and die on my soil here in America against the CCP working in Mexico. So to my Christian Zionist friends, I say, let's make sure that we understand what the Bible says, not what we're being told. Oh, well, if you're a Christian Zionist, you have to always be in agreement with the Israeli government. Really? No, you don't. And guess what? We live in a sinful, fallen world. And you have men that have feet of clay that are leaders of nations. And sometimes they do great and wonderful things, and sometimes they don't. And don't forget, human nature and self-preservation sometimes kick in. People's desire for legacy kicks in. So we have to question people, right? We have to question people's motives. What's their motive? Are they being selfish, self-centered? Are they looking out for their own interest? Or are they looking out for the interest of their neighbor? And their neighbor in this case might be America. Is Benjamin Netanyahu looking out for the interest of America? Is President Trump looking out for the best interest of Israel? But at the same time, we have to ultimately look out for what's in the best interest of our individual governments, because that's what government is to do, civil government, right? Make stable and just societies. So I can support the Jewish people, their right to the land, fight against anti-Semitism, but say, wait a minute, that doesn't mean I have to agree with everything the Israeli government does. So that's why a couple people have emailed me recently saying, I'm really shocked because you're one of the few Christian Zionists that will push back against this idea that we all have to just fall in lockstep behind Benjamin Netanyahu at all times. That's right, because I understand what the Bible actually teaches in common sense. And I think many of you do as well, which is why our numbers are going up. Our numbers are going up at this network because we do present a lot of sides and we're not falling into one stream of thinking. So with that being said, let's look at what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing and where things are going in this, well, we pray not a widening Middle Eastern war. But today we heard this from the press secretary quoting President Trump, and then we're going to get an analysis from David Pine. Listen to this.
Now, regarding the ongoing situation in Iran, I know there has been a lot of speculation amongst all of you in the media regarding the president's decision-making and whether or not the United States will be directly involved. In light of that news, I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks." That's a quote directly from the president for all of you today.
All right. Join me now is David Pine. David, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, Brannon. Great to be on.
All right, David. Within 2 weeks, I guess that obviously could mean tonight or tomorrow or 13 days from now, 14 days from now, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's it's kind of vague. It could mean, as you said, any time within that 2 weeks. But to me, it is indicative that President Trump is willing to consider resuming negotiations. And remember, it was not Iran that walked away from the peace table. It was really the U.S. essentially, because Trump decided to, even though he said he initially did not, agree with Netanyahu's decision to bomb Iran. In fact, he's been cheerleading it on ever since, to the point where he's stated that, U.S. planes have essentially taken control of Iranian airspace with our Israeli allies, and that he's expecting Iran's unconditional surrender. I mean, unconditional surrender is something we demanded from Germany and Japan, and it ended very badly for them. It meant atomic bombings of Japan. There's all kinds of implications there with the term unconditional surrender. With Germany, it meant the destruction of Germany entirely, splitting up into 8 different parts. The last 2 of which were controlled by Western forces, West Germany and then East Germany by the Soviets. But this is very apocalyptic language, and it's not at all conducive to diplomacy. So as we discussed previously earlier today, Trump is sending mixed signals. On one side, he's demanding unconditional surrender, no negotiations. Now he's, this morning, his White House press secretary is saying the door is open, maybe for negotiations. Maybe he'll accept a low-level delegation of the White House, since the high-level folks aren't being allowed to leave Iranian airspace. But it's very frustrating.
And then it was, don't kill Khomeini. Now it's, well, we may kill him. I mean, you're right. The messaging the last few weeks has been all over the map. But you know what? It's a tough job. It's a stressful job. It's fluid. I'm not saying I could do it better. And I'm not saying if I was put in that position, I wouldn't find myself kind of doing some flip-flopping and things, whatnot. But it doesn't mean it's the appropriate thing to do. It doesn't mean that it gives confidence to people that study these things. And to me, that's been the bigger issue. It's not giving confidence to us, I don't think. Now, look, there are some people in the MAGA crowd that they basically have turned him into a fictional character in their mind who can do no wrong, always is under control, playing 4D chess. And I'm like, okay, if that helps you sleep better at night, then you believe that. But he's a man. I'm sorry. He puts his pants on one leg at a time, just like the rest of us, and he makes mistakes. All right. So I'm not buying that this is all part of a big scheme and a dance. Look, my reporter from Israel, Aaron, thinks that maybe Netanyahu and Benjamin Netanyahu and Trump are doing some kind of dance together. I'm not so sure. And if that's the case, I want to know who's leading. Who's leading? Who's the leader in this dance, right? And I don't know if Trump's the leader, because I think that's why we see him flip-flopping, because I think he's being pulled and pushed and pulled and pushed. He's got people pulling and pushing him in his own administration. So I think this is very, very concerning to me. And the decision that he makes is going to impact the world. It's going to impact our economy. It's going to impact fuel prices. It is going to mean the difference between him winning the midterms and not, and him being a lame duck for the next 2 years after his midterm elections. It's going to seriously write his history and that of the world in many respects. Would you agree with that?
I couldn't agree more. I mean, the ramifications for a U.S., a sustained U.S. bombing strike on Iran that lasts several days to 3 weeks are huge. They're enormous, and it's really it's opening Pandora's box essentially, because there's as you mentioned, there's anything from a U.S. economic recession. Minimally, we would see that massive. Essentially splitting Trump's MAGA base, enabling the Democrats to win sweeping landslide victories in the 2026 midterm elections, taking control of both the House and the Senate, and then the White House in 2028. And we might see Kamala Harris back in the White House, and how awful would that be? So this is really it's really putting at risk Trump's legacy, but we're still. It's really essentially risking World War III. I think World War III would be a very likely prospect if Trump decides to make this a sustained bombing campaign. If, on the other hand, it's a one and done, where we launch a strike against the the Fordo nuclear facility that's deep underground, and we decide, well, even if it doesn't work, if we're unable to destroy it, then we're done, and we announce that at the time we attack it, then I think maybe we could dodge a bullet and avoid Armageddon. But short of that, especially with the White House statements earlier today reported by Fox News that Trump has not ruled out the use of tactical nuclear weapon to destroy Iran's main nuclear underground facility. That's a very scary prospect, and really one that I don't think most Americans really understand the ramifications for.
No, they don't understand the ramifications for. You're 100% right about that. I know the polls show that a vast majority of Americans don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. What I would say is, what if they were told, oh, by the way, they've had nuclear weapons for a few years now. I think most would go, what? Oh, you're like, well, you mean you weren't watching Worldview Tube and David Pine? You weren't watching Worldview Tube and former CIA analyst Dr. Peter Vincent Pry? Oh, you weren't listening to, David, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't former CIA Director James Woolsey think they've had nuclear weapons for a while?
He has, and both Dr. Pry and James Woolsey and other high-up folks in this U.S. intelligence and military officials have also come to that conclusion, and as far back as I think 2015. So
and the point is, not that I'm happy they have them, but if they have them and has had them as far back as you just said, 2015, why the urgency now? Why the urgency now? And why this urgency? Listen to what I'm going to say, folks. Why the urgency now that Donald Trump is in office and that Donald Trump is trying to put in a whole new system above the Federal Reserve to get, basically neuter the Federal Reserve, which is what I think he's trying to do, to save the American currency and the dollar from the BRIC system and our massive inflation, seal our borders, neuter the deep state, get rid of these agencies we don't need. All of our tax dollars, basically, that don't go to do what we need them to do, but go to special interest groups and USAID, which is, I think, in part piggy bank for the CIA. Talk about going to paper for voting. All the things he's trying to do. You can just kiss that goodbye if we go to World War III. And you can kiss his presidency goodbye after the midterms. So isn't it funny, David, that there wasn't this heightened sense of, we've got to go after Iran when Biden was around. But all of a sudden we have all these people that want to hyperventilate on how quickly we have to go in and take out Iran. Why? If they've had the bomb since 2015, why the hyperventilating to do it now? Could it be this is a gigantic trap for Donald Trump, the globalists, the neocons? And I'm not convinced that Benjamin Netanyahu is some diehard conservative. Not when you hand your country over to big pharma, like we have him talking about on video. And I can say other things about him related to the World Economic Forum and whatnot. So why does this urgency all of a sudden, when Donald Trump gets into office and is starting to make amazing strides, do we see him being walked down this road by a bunch of neocons? I'm just getting a little suspicious. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right to be suspicious. There's essentially a main, Israeli neocon talking point, and what they argue is that as soon as Iran gets their first nuclear bomb, they'll give it to terrorists and have it destroy New York City or Tel Aviv, and there's just no evidence of that. There's no evidence for anything like that throughout history. Iran has every reason to maintain full control of all of its nuclear weapons because that's their only defense against U.S. and Israeli attacks. Call them preemptive attacks, unprovoked aggression, whatever you want to call them, justify them or not. That's really the only way that Iran can protect itself as a nation, certainly ensure regime survival. And I would expect that if indeed, I'm correct and you're correct that Iran has nuclear weapons, that if the U.S. does strike, in a big way, in a sustained way against Iran, their nuclear sites and perhaps other sites as well, Iran will reveal the existence of its nuclear arsenal. It could do so in a big way. It could do so with above ground nuclear detonation demonstration tests over the Persian Gulf. or simply, invite someone to, fly a sniffer aircraft over an underground nuclear testing facility, which one of my co-panelists, Annie, stated that there was an Iranian earthquake of 5.2, magnitude that she has heard was likely an Iranian nuclear test. Mm-hmm. So, this is a critical moment for the Trump presidency. I would say it's a transformational moment where he is essentially having given the choice to transform from a failed neocon, America Last president, from the wonderful, noble, America First peacemaking president that he was when he first was elected.
And now we have Benjamin Netanyahu, according to numerous outlets tonight, reporting this, quote, Israel has the capability to achieve all its goals alone when it comes to Iran's nuclear facilities, and that it is up to President Trump if he wants to join in or not, end quote. All right. If that's an accurate representation, you know what I say? What we've been saying consistently here for weeks. Let them do it. If Israel wants to do this, go have at it. Have at it. If you think this is an existential threat to you all of a sudden, even though I think they've had it for a while, if this is an existential threat to you right now, because remember, we've got clips going back to 1995, all the way forward to 2025. He's 90 days, he's 6 months from having a nuclear weapon. Benjamin's been telling us that since 1995. We played the video clips of all these years. Okay. So if he believes it's now all of a sudden an existential threat, then have at it. He just told us he can do it on his own. Apparently, he's even saying that they can take care of the one nuclear facility that needs a bunker-busting bomb on their own as well by putting people on the ground that put in the explosives, get out and detonate. Then I say, go, let them do it. Why is our president still talking about being involved at all? Particularly if he knows this is divisive in the country, why wouldn't he take this as his exit out of this mess?
Well, I think Netanyahu's grand plan all along has been to rope the U.S. into a war with Iran, because he knows that the U.S. military is far stronger than the Israeli military. And, if he could get the U.S. to, massively bomb Iran, it could, at least his hope is that would affect regime change, perhaps, kill the Ayatollah, weaken his regime to the point where, I don't know. I mean, there's no real opposition forces that are pro-Western that still exist in Iran. I mean, the best, I guess, the only option would be the IRGC takes over from the Ayatollah. And again, according to
it'll be worse.
Your guest, Annie, that's actually already happened. That the Ayatollah has ceded power to the IRGC Special Council with a mandate to use nuclear weapons if necessary in defense of the Iranian regime. So that's not an improvement. What we've heard before is that Sharia law, as interpreted by the Ayatollah Khomeini, forbids the use of nuclear weapons against civilian targets. So, they don't want to kill civilians directly with nukes. But if that's true, that power has been ceded to the IRGC, then the IRGC, which controls Iran's nuclear arsenal, will not have any reservation in doing so if they feel the regime is under threat, as Israel, as Netanyahu has repeatedly threatened to do, to assassinate the Ayatollah. Trump has said, we know where the Ayatollah is, we could kill him easily, but for now he's safe. We won't kill him yet, essentially, is what he said. And that's extremely destabilizing.
Well, a week ago, he was saying, don't kill him. A week ago, he's saying to Israel, don't kill him. Now he's saying, well, we might. So again, it changes every day. But look at this, talk about ceding power. The IRGC being ceded power by the, quote, supreme leader, end quote. Hegseth cedes power to the general in the Pentagon's plans for Iran. What is this all about? And what does this tell you? What does this tell you?
Well, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who I still support, he has really talked about what a great, strong leader he is, and how he's restoring civilian control over the Pentagon, and he's a great Secretary of Defense. But then he cedes unprecedented control over U.S. war plans to the CENTCOM commander. And that's maybe something we might see if we were at war or something along those lines. But essentially, General Kurilla is who's due to retire next month, is seen by Israel as their top asset in the U.S. military high command, and he presides over U.S. military forces in the entire Middle Eastern region. So my belief, or what I've been hearing, is that Israel, the reason that they decided to act now is because they wanted to act while Kurilla was still in place, knowing that all of his military advice would be used to persuade President to massively bomb Iran. Whereas if he could be replaced next month with someone who's much less hawkish and much less much more risk averse to war with the potential nuclear adversary like Iran.
So when I asked the question a while ago, if they've had the nuclear weapon for a while, why all of a sudden the rush? Well, in part, you just answered the question. You're saying that this general is about to retire in a month. That's why?
Yeah, that's the main reason. We've had discussions on air, just trying to identify who's responsible, who's whispering in Trump's ear to make him pursue this America first, America last, Israeli first policy of war with Iran that risks World War III. Mm-hmm. And I think that General Kurilla is the most likely answer in terms of he and Mike Waltz and Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, are all marching to the same drummer. They all want war with Iran. They all want to obliterate Iran. They're calling for Trump to do the same thing. And it's becoming increasingly clear that that's exactly what Trump wants. And I just posted today on my X page that Trump is increasingly angry with Tulsi Gabbard as really the lone voice of reason, trying to advise him against war with Iran.
Inside the clash between Trump and Gabbard. All right. So we played the video where she was talking about World War III and how dangerous it would be. And I can't remember who we had on that thought that was a little inappropriate for her to put that out there. Of course, everybody's entitled to their opinion. But from reading this article and reading your post today, apparently that video, President Trump didn't know it was going to come out. And apparently he was really, really angry about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so he viewed that post where, or the video where Tulsi Gabbard essentially, played, the atomic bombings of Hiroshima, and she exaggerated the casualties. She said that, 300,000 people were killed at Hiroshima. Actually, it was closer to maybe 80,000, 70,000 thereabouts. But essentially, she stated that there, are, the deep state or the globalists or the warmongers in D.C. and the political class were trying to start World War III, and that we've never been closer to nuclear war. And, Trump, of course, is trying to present himself as
rising deaths. On my end, I want to play it while you talk. I'll play the video of her, but I'll bring the audio down. There you go. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, so he's trying to present himself as a cool-headed peacemaker who's trying to avert wars and end wars, and in Orwellian fashion, trying to start a war to create peace or bring the Iranians back to the table with U.S. bombing strikes. And understandably, he viewed that as off message and as a criticism, a stealth criticism, maybe a not so stealth criticism of his Iran war policy, in which he's threatening a potential nuclear strike on Iran or conventional U.S. strikes on Iran that could escalate to a global, the global level.
Mm-hmm. And of course, J.D. Vance came out and tweeted kind of in her defense, saying she's a great patriot, kind of trying to cover it over, right?
Yeah, I mean, J.D. Vance he's definitely a team player. I think he sides with Tulsi. We know that he sided with Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth in opposition to bombing Iran last time around. That was just in April. Where they were able to convince Trump to delay, Israel's bombing of Iran at that time, where on April 7th in the White House, Trump informed Netanyahu that he was vetoing, not providing authorization at that time. But unfortunately, J.D. Vance has essentially said, well, we need to, if Trump does bomb Iran, we need to trust that he knows what he's doing. And, that said, he continues to defend Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth and any other, restrainers, that aren't super, neoconish as good members of the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm. And of course, some are putting this out tonight. We have no confirmation as of yet. If any news comes in on this as the broadcast continues to unfold, we'll bring it to you. But this is what some are saying is the case. Let's assume this happens eventually. What does this mean? Really, does it just means that IRGC is absolutely confirmed as being in charge now, right?
Well, what it means is that it carries with it a greater chance of escalation, nuclear escalation. If we just imagine how the U.S. would respond.
Well, President Trump said, if I'm taken out, I have left orders for how to respond. How do we know that? Right. How do we know Khomeini hasn't said, if I'm taken out, I'm leaving you orders how to respond? And by the way, I'm changing my position on Islamic rule because I think he can do that, right?
Exactly right. I mean, there's no reason not to believe that. We have to believe that when you start a war against a nuclear power, you have to think through all the worst case scenarios. And there was no one better than, of course, Dr. Peter Pry, one of my predecessors as head of the EMB task force that outlined that. And you have to think through how the enemy thinks, how they're going to respond to what you do. And there's so little critical thinking in the White House, in the administration today. Which is really unfortunate because we don't want to stumble or sleepwalk into World War III with, 4 different nuclear adversaries. But that's what the worst case scenario is for the U.S. A global thermonuclear war fought on multiple fronts in which the U.S. has zero hope of prevailing.
Yeah, indeed. Hold right there. David Pine checking in, dpine.substack.com, dpine.substack.com. Do you appreciate what we're doing, folks? You appreciate how we shove it all out to you for free? We appreciate your support. WorldviewFoundation.com. Be right back. We live in uncertain times. In fact, we live at a time when our own governments all over the world are warning us that there could be big problems with our power grid. World War III seems to be right on the horizon. Let me ask you this. Do you have a satellite phone? Should communications go down with cell towers? Do you have a satellite phone to get a hold of that college student or your spouse who travels, whatever it might be, to get a hold of your senior adult parents? We have satellite phones at worldviewtalk.com, and you get the satellite phone for free when you sign up for their very reasonable payment programs for the service. Sign up for the service with a reasonable contract, get the satellite phone for free. Worldviewtalk.com. You'll also find they have, what I now have, which is a solar generator. Yeah, I have a gas generator, an LP propane generator, but what if that goes down? I want to back up to my backup. So I now have a solar generator as well. You'll find them at worldviewtalk.com. Check it out today, worldviewtalk.com.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity. All from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
Okay. David Pine is with us still for a little bit longer here, just a few more minutes. But we are getting reports tonight. 2 U.S. soldiers die in non-combat incidents in the Middle East as region on edge. 2 U.S. soldiers die in non-combat incidents. So there you go. All right. What else do we have here? I think we have a report, something related to Iran getting their ships out of the Strait of Hormuz. Let's see. I thought I had something on that, but maybe not. David, let's talk about that real quick politically in regards to that. Talk about oil prices, energy prices. I mean, all of this, when Americans talk about, we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Okay, in a perfect world, neither do I. But what if those people were told, oh, by the way, they've already had one probably since 2015? Don't you think their analysis would be changed? In other words, these polls are being used for propaganda. And if it was like, if we strike, here's what next poll question should be. But if Iran has already had the nuclear weapon since 2015, what is your view? And then add another one. If America getting involved in striking Iran invites a bigger Middle Eastern war with Russia, North Korea, or China chiming in, and it ends up with a whole big Middle Eastern war that involves troops on the ground, what is your opinion? I mean, one poll question that's asked without the full context is not a legitimate poll question. Because most of these people that are answering it don't know that likely Iran has had the bomb since 2015. So the polls, like always, most of them are used to brainwash and manipulate and propaganda for the military-industrial complex. True or false?
The questions that was asked there is, should we try to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon? And the assumption is through peace, through diplomacy or military pressure. And the answer to that is, I think, 60 to 63% of Americans think the answer is yes. Ask the question a different way. Should we bomb Iran and go to war with Iran? Only 19% of Trump voters voted in the affirmative for that one, and 53% were strongly against. So, 19% of 77 million Trump voters support war, going to war with Iran, and 81% are either ambivalent or strongly oppose it. So that's really the message we need to drive home with President Trump. Everyone who has influence with a member of the Trump team, with the White House, with Republican members of Congress, should be going after him with the same message, which is you can't afford to risk your presidency and self-destruct, the America First conservative agenda that you've campaigned on over what's at best, a small chance of being able to, set back Iran's nuclear program by 3 months. The analysis that I've seen is best case, we set it back by 3 months. We have to bomb them again in 3 months. Every 3 months, we're bombing Iran. We're risking World War III. What's the point of that? And especially where, as you just stated, they've likely had nuclear weapons for many years, and they haven't used them. Nuclear deterrence has worked because, Iran, Israel and the U.S. together have our nuclear arsenals likely, as much as 200 or more times greater than theirs. There's no, in a peaceful situation where we are, having diplomacy with Iran, there's almost zero risk that they would use their nukes against us, risking massive nuclear retaliation. But if we keep doing what we're doing and try to assassinate the Ayatollah, as you said, he may have left orders, if he were to die through hostile means, that they would strike back with, some kind of super EMP or massive cyber attack against the U.S.
Do you make anything, David, of, as I reported in the Worldview Report tonight, I-24 News saying that I think it's I-24 News that was reporting that I just want to double check if the right source who was reporting this. I think it was I-24 News, that the plane, U.S. Air Force E-4B, but it's really not often called the Doomsday plane, flew from Louisiana in a weird pattern and landed in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday at Edwards Air Force Base, Joint Base Andrews. I think it normally stays in Nebraska, but it does flying routines and drills, and I don't know if this was part of a regular drill or whatever. But what do you make of the fact that it was seen sitting on the tarmac, according to news reports, Tuesday night in Washington, D.C., the Doomsday plane? Is that just routine training or what?
No, that's highly significant. That suggests strongly that we've raised our DEFCON alert status for U.S. STRATCOM and NORTHCOM to DEFCON 4.
And whoa, that's all military talk. What does that mean to us lay people?
So we have 5 defense conditions for our alert status, and it's per command. So there's not really an overall DEFCON level. For example, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, Strategic Air Command, our alert status was raised to DEFCON 2 when we were on the verge of nuclear war with the Soviet Union over Soviet nuclear missile station in Cuba. So what I've been advocating, what I posted, I think, on X yesterday, is that if Trump does indeed plan to take us to World War III, he needs to raise the DEFCON level to DEFCON 3. DEFCON 3 would mean that Trump and Vance could not be in the same location. They would have to be at different locations at all times, because if they are in the same, if they're in the White House, for example, it would only take one nuclear decapitation strike to take out all 3 nuclear footballs. And then we would be unable to restore launch control of our nuclear arsenal and order a nuclear retaliatory strike by the acting president of the United States against a nuclear aggressor.
So would the president tell us if that threat, if the threat's been moved up, we haven't been told, do they traditionally tell the people or not?
No, they don't. It's considered classified secret information. So we would only hear that from sources that are leaking that information within the military.
Okay, so what would that tell you if they've raised that level?
Well, I think it's smart. We've created a crisis along with Israel with nuclear-armed Iran. So that's a very smart and prudent measure to raise the DEFCON level. When our Tacoma aircraft are airborne, that's typically a sign that we're at least at DEFCON 4. So DEFCON 5 is kind of the normal lowest level of readiness for STRATCOM, which controls our nuclear arsenal, and NORTHCOM, which is our entire controls the entire armed forces of the U.S. within the Northern Hemisphere. But DEFCON 3 is I've actually been calling for DEFCON 3. At least, like an overall DEFCON 3 alert status since the war in Ukraine began, as a precautionary measure to ensure that we're not caught flat-footed by a potential Russian nuclear first strike. So I'm happy to hear that it looks like DEFCON 4 has been initiated.
So that plane would sit there on that tarmac in case President Trump needs to run from the White House lawn on Marine One over to there and hop on that plane, not your normal Air Force One, but your quote doomsday plane, as it's called. And there I think that one is wrapped to really be able to handle like an electromagnetic pulse and different things and run the whole war from there, correct?
Well, what we have is we have the Air Force One, and then we have kind of a duplicate of Air Force One that's more of a military commander situation. So maybe a two-star or a 3 or 4-star general would be on that plane, which would be in a position to relay presidential launch orders to our nuclear triad.
So President Trump necessarily wouldn't be the one running to it.
That's right. That's not going to be the president's plane. That's going to be like a top general.
But there are times when the president would get on that plane at certain scenarios, correct?
Well, any plane that President Trump boards is automatically declared Air Force One. So,
right. But would that doomsday plane ever be used? Is it different? In other words, is the doomsday plane any different than his normal, what we call Air Force One? Is it any different? Would he ever hop on the doomsday plane himself?
It would not be a standard procedure for him to board a doomsday plane. That would only happen if Air Force One were incapacitated and he was unable to use it.
So it would be there. So a general, you said, could hop on it, get up, and be in a safe location to make sure there's no communications that are disrupted for him to send the president's signals to the submarines, nuclear submarines.
Yeah, it would presumably be at Andrews to pick up a top, U.S. general, usually an Air Force general, to be that kind of relay for presidential nuclear launch orders.
Let's go to this article in closing. This is from National Interest. How war with Iran would undercut U.S.-China strategy, meaning undercut our strategy. It would actually help China, I think, but undercut ours. Here's the sentence. Every military asset moved to the Middle East is one that could be used to deter China in the Indo-Pacific. So again, how much is China pulling the strings on some of this as well? And does this, you were saying long before this heated up, what we're seeing right now, that you thought the window for China to move against Taiwan would be a big window. You weren't being dogmatic, but you said, look, I wouldn't be shocked. Maybe it's 2026, maybe it's 2027, but I wouldn't be shocked if there isn't a window for this, for China to move against Taiwan in the fall. Now, if we're moving a bunch of assets out of the region to the Middle East, did this window just open up for China?
I think it has, yeah. And the more, we're transferring a third carrier to the region, we typically have half of our carriers. We have 11 total carriers. We have maybe 6 at sea at any given time. And, we're deploying 3 to the Middle East region. That likely leaves only 1 in the Western Pacific to deter China. And one carrier, China has 3 carriers and a fleet, that's almost 50% larger than ours, in terms of ship, not in terms of, ships, not in terms of tonnage. And so, one carrier's, an easy target to sink. I guess I'll say it doesn't really pose a deterrent at all. It's basically a green light to China that if we bomb Iran, it's go time for a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. And that's even, probably the number one trigger for World War III, because there's a lot of hotheads that Trump's appointed in the White House that might advise him that, just to ensure U.S. prestige, we have to risk, the annihilation of the United States in a full-blown war with China that would be guaranteed to go nuclear, or at least cyber, or super, the super AP level.
Or we can't engage Iran in the Middle East and engage China at the same time, can we? Our military doesn't have haven't we spent a lot of our assets in Ukraine, literally?
Yeah, so we have essentially, a one theater war doctrine where it used to be 2.5 wars during the Cold War, where our military was designed to fight in 2.5 theaters essentially. Today it's more of it got to be like a 1.5. Maybe we're still at 1.5, but certainly not more than 1. So maybe in theory we could, if we're not at war, or if we're in some kind of low level conflict in the Middle East or Ukraine, maybe in theory we could face China, but the balance of power is so heavily weighted with China in the Taiwan region, where it's 81 miles away. They would outnumber us in warships by 10 to 1 in the South China Sea, according to the former director of Pacific Fleet, director of intelligence for the Pacific Fleet, Captain James Fennell. So we already start with only 15% of our, naval and air forces in the Western Pacific. We started an extreme disadvantage to a country that has the largest Air Force, Navy, and Army and Coast Guard in the world.
Wow. Well, David, as always, we appreciate your analysis. How do you think we're doing? How do you think our network is doing? We're trying to present, a lot of sides here, bring the news, bring the information. We don't really have any agenda other than really just trying to help our audience understand and think through this without emotion, without propaganda, without, overt nationalism by one group over the other, but just the straight facts. How is our network doing? Because I'm sure you're aware of interviews beyond just when you're on. How do you think we're doing?
I think your network is outstanding. It's an invaluable tool for Americans to, sift through all the disinformation, the war propaganda. Certainly there, you have neocons on your show. You have America First conservatives like me and yourself, that feature prominently in your shows as well. But it's important that Americans hear, both sides of the issue, and, so they have an informed opinion. Even on Fox News, sometimes we only hear from the neocons and the warmongers. Sean Hannity is probably the absolute worst example of that. Tucker Carlson was the best example of an America First conservative voice. And, he eviscerated, Ted Cruz, who's a neocon warmonger, and like Lindsey Graham calling for, World War III with Iran. So I think you're doing a great job. You're a great patriot, and our country's better off having you.
Well, thank you. And we can't do it without great analysis by you and all of our other folks that will take the time to be with us. So we're trying our hardest. We're not trying to cater to any group other than the group that wants truth. And that's what we're trying to do. We really are. That's it. So your feedback and your compliments are well received and appreciated. dpine.substack.com, dpine.substack.com. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you, David, for what you do. David Pine, again, dpine.substack.com. Folks, take a look at this here. We need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address here, folks. I mean, think about all we do. 2 hours last Saturday, 2 hours on Sunday on all this. We're shoving it all out for free. Folks, we really do need your support. Will you please consider going there now? Worldviewfoundation.com. Worldviewfoundation.com. Again, you'll find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. Hey, don't forget about our free app at worldviewtube.com/apps, worldviewtube.com/apps, worldviewtube.com/apps. Be sure to set that you want our notifications, because we do push notifications when there's breaking news. If you already have the app and you haven't set that, go to settings, then go to notifications, look for our app, click it, and then say you want the green button to receive our notifications. We'll be right back.
There's really only one person in the world, and you've had him on the show, Dr. Mark Miller, who understood what would happen if you combined these three ingredients: the collagen, the Versol B collagen, the asteryl astaxanthin, and the cat's claw. And each one of them independently are amazing, but when you put them together synergistically, they increase each other's power. And that's why we're getting all these amazing results. And the reason why they're so great, Brannon, is because when you take a look at collagen, you mentioned it, hair, skin, nails, but collagen also makes up 40% of the protein in your body. It makes up your gastrointestinal lining. This is why you're not having to take Pepcid anymore. It makes up your joint spaces, your bone health, your teeth health. You need a good collagen in you, and we have the best, but it's because of the other two ingredients. Asteryl astaxanthin, 70 human clinical trials. And by the way, collagen, our Versol B collagen, has 10 human clinical trials behind it. Astaxanthin is water soluble and fat soluble, so we can get and protect around the cell, but it can also get into the cell and protect inside the cell, where it sets up by the mitochondria, the powerhouse energy producing organelles. And when it produces energy, it's going to spit out some free radicals, and we need a great antioxidant to absorb those and scavenge those free radicals. And there's nothing better than astaxanthin. It's 6,000 times stronger than vitamin C, 3,000 times stronger than resveratrol, 850 times stronger than CoQ10, 350 times stronger than green tea extract. It is the powerhouse, the king of all antioxidants. And then let's not forget about the cat's claw. Cat's claw is the king of I would say, from a standpoint of reducing and eliminating inflammation. That's what it does. It really targets that nuclear factor kappa B. Not really necessarily, you know that, but that's the pathway to your cells that causes us so many problems, because chronic inflammation in our bodies causes health issues. And when we can reduce and eliminate that, we have a home run. And that's what the cat's claw does. The astaxanthin is also an anti-inflammatory. The collagen also has properties of being anti-inflammatory. Synergistically together, these three are.
Joining me now is Dr. Bashima Williams. How many of you are under stress? Any of you? Any of you under stress? Oh, I don't know. What could possibly be going on in your life and in the world that would cause you to have stress? Well, how about sighing? Do you ever sigh? Because I think I've told this radio audience and TV audience. I don't know if I've said this to Dr. Bashima. What was it, about a month ago? About a month ago, for those of you who are regular listeners, you'll know the story. I said, my wife says, Brannon, you've got this habit in the last couple of years, going around sighing multiple times a day really loud. I said, really? I was kind of doing it subconsciously, I guess. You know, what's really funny is we've been married almost 35 years. There are times my wife and I sigh at the same time. That's not uncommon at all, that we sigh at the same time. I don't know if we're on some kind of pattern, or there's some kind of energy, or you know, some kind of frequency in the room. I don't know what happens with married people after 35 years. But a lot of people have been married 35 years and longer. You start thinking something and then they bring it up. Or you have a question and then they answer it without you asking. You know, you ever do this kind of thing with your mate, with your spouse? I don't know. There's something, I think when we get to heaven, we're going to find out that there's far more going on than we realize when a man and a woman get married and become one and live together, that there's a lot going on, right? So why is it we both sigh sometimes at the exact same time and then we laugh about it? But she'll say to me, you're sighing more in the last couple of years. Well, I'm probably under more stress with all this going on in the news and how 24/7 news cycle and all the, needing to bring in 40 grand a month to keep the network afloat and all that goes with that, right? But what is it? Why do I go, why do I do that? And why do I do it subconsciously? Is this the body trying to remove anxiety on its own naturally? And do we do this even when we sleep? I don't know. Let's talk about that with Dr. Bashima Williams. Dr. Bashima, what do you think of my little set up monologue there about my sighing more often? Even my wife and I sometimes sighing at the same time and then laughing about it.
Hi, Brannon. Thank you so much for having me on your show today and just for letting me have a little platform. Yeah, and having a little platform to just sort of teach and educate and empower. And, it's interesting when you're married to your spouse long enough, you can literally walk into the room and feel the energy of your spouse and know whether they're in a great mood. You don't have to say a single
100%.
word. Yeah, and that also goes true with the sighing and sort of the thought process. You guys do become one, and that is truly biblically what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to become one so that you can feel her pain and vice versa. You can feel her joy and vice versa. So absolutely, I think doing life alone is really depressing, and not only that, but hormonally, like you said in a show a while back, the days that you guys go out to dinner with all those friends of yours is truly joyful and fulfilling. And part of that reason is because there truly is a hormone, oxytocin, that is required to live with. I mean, you can't live without it. And so having that social engagement, and especially with your spouse and having that close connection, is extremely important. And especially in this, world that we live in today. I was just watching a CNN, or sorry, not CNN, a Fox network show where we were watching we were watching just some people being into, I have a video of it. Pete Hegseth being under the fire with the most ridiculous questions, like, have you allowed or given order to your military to shoot people in the foot? Protesters who are not combative, or just protesters who are protesting without any sort of, malice effect. Have you given orders to shoot them in the foot? Like, what world are we living in now where we actually have to have the most ridiculous and stupid questions like that given to the head of our military?
That's funny you brought that up, because we don't rehearse this show. Because I actually have a clip tonight to play. Here's a perfect example of what she's talking about. Listen to this.
Because if it were, you would be keeping these women in. Instead, you are the one injecting culture wars into the military, and it's at the detriment of our military readiness and national security. Now, General Kane, I'd like to turn to you.
So to be clear, these are men who think they're women.
These are women. I'm happy to educate you on
but these are men.
On trans issues at another
What we've
time.
identified is that there's mental health issues with that belief system.
I'd like to turn to General
are detrimental to readiness, and that's the determination that we've made and that we stand behind. Gender dysphoria.
And so you don't.
Wow. I mean, that is, when I saw that today, I thought, this is what he has to deal with. And the lady, I'm not trying to pick on her or anything, but just look at her expression. We don't even need the audio. Just look at her face and her eyes, and you realize, in my opinion, there's something going on there. There's something going on there spiritually, mentally, and then you add the worldview of the language, and philosophically, you realize, wow, there's a lot going on. But that's funny you brought that up today. So I happen to have that clip, and you brought that up to fit our conversation because
what I have been experiencing with my patients is a significant increase in an unsettled feeling on the inside. We call that stress, and it's overactivation of something called the sympathetic nervous system, or your fight or flight response. Your nervous system is broken down into the autonomic nervous system, which has two main branches: the parasympathetic, which is your relax and digest, and your sympathetic, which is your fight or flight. Okay. And we are living more and more and more and more in fight or flight. So what I want to be sure that we do today is educate on how to decrease fight or flight in the world that we live in and increase parasympathetic nervous system, which is your relax and digest. Now, the parasympathetic nervous system is made up of a whole bunch of nerves, but the most important nerve and the one that dominates significantly is called the vagal nerve. And the vagus nerve is it's your 10th cranial nerve, and it comes down your neck and goes and innervates almost everything from in your chest all the way down to your gut. So your heart, your breathing, your liver, your digestive enzymes that help with digestion of food and nutrients, the motility and the pain sensation in the gut, with IBS and things like that. That funny feeling you get in your gut, that's your vagus nerve. And what we want to do is we want to explicitly focus on the vagus nerve and how we can activate it naturally to decrease the amount of stress that our body is having. Because honestly, Brannon, as you know, living in chronic sympathetic nervous system overrun, even in this world that we're living in right now, even with the craziness that's going out there, if we don't learn how to tame it and control it, it will lead to so many diseases.
And will this help people also who maybe suffer with panic attacks?
100%. Yes. And so some of my favorite ways to engage the vagus nerve, again, the biggest player of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your relax and digest. Have you ever been really angry and tried to eat? Doesn't sit very well, does it? That's because your sympathetic nervous system is up here and your relax and digest is down here. It's just going to sit in you'll be able to swallow it, but then you just get this full feeling in your belly because your stomach isn't working like it's supposed to, right?
Now we have a clip. Set up this clip for me.
So this clip is from Dr. Huberman, who is one of the most popular podcasts in the world.
Which I did not know. I did not know that, but Logan showed me the clip in advance. We don't rehearse the show as far as what she's going to say, I'm going to say, this kind of stuff. But I did know she had a clip, and I wanted to see it. And I said to Logan, I don't know who that is. And he said, oh, this guy's really popular.
Yeah. Dr. Huberman, Stanford, optho-neuro guy, really, really smart, and makes things digestible and understandable. And he happened to be on the Today Show, which then he gave us this one way of breathing that significantly reduces sympathetic override.
And this is on, what show is this, Logan?
This is on the Today Show.
No, this is that guy.
Sorry, not the Today Show. Is it the Tonight Show?
The Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon.
Yes, it's the nighttime show, the Tonight Show.
Here we go. Watch this, guys.
The thing is that your brain is always handling this. It's always generating these breathing rhythms, inhale, exhale, through a specific brain center. However, there's a particular station in your brain, a region, a collection of neurons in your brain that controls a different pattern of breathing. This is an area of the brain that's specifically dedicated to a pattern of breathing called physiological size. So what I'm about to describe is not breath work in the sense of, going and taking a class in breath work. This is something that you actually do periodically throughout the day. You don't notice it. During sleep, you do it. And this is, and my laboratory works on this specifically, the fastest and the best way to de-stress, to lower your level of stress in real time. And this is very important because life is stressful, right? Like, we can't control external events. And we hear all this stuff like meditate, vacation, massage, do all this stuff, but that's great. But what if you're stressed in the moment, right? You're about to give a talk, or you're in a difficult conversation, or, the world seems to be spinning around you. The physiological sigh brings your level of stress down immediately, very quickly, and we all have the capacity to do it. And it's done the following way. It's a double inhale through the nose. The first one is a complete inhale till your lungs feel full, and then you sneak in a little bit more air as a second inhale, and then a long, slow exhale through the mouth until your lungs are completely empty. Yeah, we can all do it together.
We should do this. We should all do this together. All right, so will you tell us when to stop inhaling?
Yeah, I can't do it while speaking.
Okay.
And this is completely safe to do unless you're underwater.
No one here is swimming. All right, good.
So,
show of hands.
So you're going to do a big, deep inhale through your nose until your lungs are full. So let's do that. So big inhale. And now before you exhale, sneak in a little bit more air to maximally inflate your lungs. And now slowly exhale all your air through your mouth until your lungs are completely empty.
We all just de-stressed right now. I love this.
Oh, wow. That's how you de-stress. All right. So this really helps with, I've heard that this helps from for people who are having a panic attack, right? Because people have a panic attack, and some people get panic attacks absolutely out of the blue. They've never had one before. You know, they may be in their 20s, their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, and all of a sudden, boom, they have a panic attack, and they think they're having a heart attack and dying, and they don't know what it is, and they find out later it was a panic attack, and they're like, what do you mean? Where'd that come from? So I don't know what's going on in their life. Obviously, a lot of stress, you know, something may be going on, you know, that's pulling magnesium out of their system that gives them that sense of wellness or calm. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. But I have heard that people that do what he's just explaining can immediately move their body out of a panic attack. True?
That is absolutely true. And there are several different types of breathing. That is one breath that you should do on a regular basis, even when you're not in the middle of a stressful situation. But when you're there's also this something called box breathing, where you inhale, hold it for inhale for 5 seconds, hold it for 5 seconds, and then exhale for 5 seconds. And really doing these breathing exercises has affected the brain's command center for our ability to relax. Okay, so people who pray on a regular basis, who meditate on a regular basis, who do breathing exercises like the 5-5-5 breath or the sigh breaths periodically throughout the whole day, like 5 or 10 times a day, intentionally, where they're really, you do it unintentionally also, but this is intentional practice. We know that we have actually seen the area of their brain that controls some of their mood and anxiety and things like that actually grow bigger in response to being able to be more resilient towards stress. Same thing happens whenever you intentionally expose yourself to stress, like for example, cold water plunges. If you do a cold water plunge properly, you will go in with that deep breath. And so when that cold water hits your whole entire body, instead of having a panic attack, it's sort of a controlled situation, right? Where it promotes sort of a panic attack, but with you knowing and having a reframing in your mind, a different mindset of I'm going to breathe through this, it helps you become more resilient to when you do have stress. In fact, people who practice breathing on a regular basis, when they're faced with stress, say a stressful dog chasing them, or even, their fight or flight, of course, kicks in. But if an angry boss is coming towards them and they're going to have a heated conversation, or if you have to have a difficult conversation with your spouse, you go into it doing your deep breathing, and you can stay a lot more calm rather than having that higher pitched voice and having, saying and doing things that you wish you wouldn't have. So definitely helpful. You can train yourself to do well just by doing it on a regular basis, but also with the cold water plunges. Those are really, really helpful to improve resilience towards stress.
All right, so let's now go to myvitamin.com, myvitamin.com. I have the men and the women's. Let me reach over here, guys. The men and the women's. There you go. Yep. And they have it set up. She has it set up for you. So every day, your morning pack, your night pack, they're what you need. So that's right. How does this fit in with our discussion on anxiety and stress today?
So, one of the most popular packs is Calm and Restore. We do a lot of work with stress and anxiety and things like that. And one of our most common packs is the Calm and Restore because it has everything that you need foundationally. So it's got the fish oil and the B vitamins and all of that. But it also has specific things in it for energy and mitochondrial function, improving that, and sleep, improved sleep, and it improves your resilience to stress. So that has been a really popular pack. We actually did some studies ourselves where we saw an increase in heart rate variability, which is a marker of how well your body is tolerating stress with this particular pack. And we saw that we had an improvement in that.
Excellent.
So, these supplements are medical grade. These are not just over-the-counter supplements. These will actually get into your system. And I just want to thank your listeners, everyone who's supporting Brannon and his cause. You're right. You do have a high cost every month. These are supporting your, exactly what you're doing at myvitamin.com/worldview. Go there, order them. You're going to do good and you're going to do good. You're going to do good and you're doing good. And that's exactly what we try to do on a regular basis.
And I thank you for that. And I want to stress, you only make these vitamins when they're ordered so that they're not aging out. These are not something you sit and hold around for a year, right?
Every single thing, when patients see me, they're paying thousands of dollars, Brannon. I'm not going to use cheap supplements because if my supplements don't work, then there's something else going on that I need to look into. It's not because the supplements are not working. They're superior in every way in terms of being absorbed really, really quickly, being available at the cellular level really, really well. So, and actually being the over delivering and under promising in terms of what's actually in the capsules. So when we say there's 800 micrograms or in milligrams of an ingredient, there really is that, or maybe a little more. The fish oil is a type of oil that goes rancid really, really quick. So of course we're not going to prepackage these, because if a fish oil sits on your shelf for more than 3 months, it's rancid, in my opinion. And certainly the quality, it's triple distilled and all that kind of stuff. So in terms of the quality of the supplement, you're really not going to find anything better. And they're the ones I've been using for my patients for over 10 to 15 years in functional medicine. And I've had a lot of success. So of course, that's what I'm going to share, because I can share whatever I want. Why would I not give anyone I know and all my patients the best of the best that I have researched?
Well, we appreciate that. And that's one reason why we're working with you, obviously. So you have the Women's Daily, the Men's Daily, the Teen Pack, the Daily Foundational. Remind our audience what it is. If they're a woman, they start with the Women's Daily. The men, they start with the Men's Daily. Is that what they do?
Yes. And then if you're a woman over 50, we did add a special calcium in the Women 50 pack.
Okay.
So we have to be careful not to take too much calcium. It's not good for our arteries. And we also have to take one that's actually going to do the work and support the bones, and not just be in our blood and then pee it out.
What's the Daily Foundational Plus Immune? Who's that for?
So that is for anyone who wants their Daily Foundational. Plus, a lot of our patients switch over from the Foundational to the Foundational Daily Immune if they want to boost their immune system. So a lot of our patients will start taking that one in October, November, December, January, February, when there's a lot of bugs out.
Is that in addition to the Men's Daily? So if they're doing the Men's Daily, then they would add to it, or that would replace it?
That would replace it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, Brannon, I cannot tell you the number of people that tell me they get sick every winter. In fact, some of my patients who established with me, they're like setting me up and telling me, hey, you know what? Every October, I get a sinus infection. Can I just call you for an antibiotic? I'm like, no, you can't just call me for an antibiotic, because you know what? You don't need to be on one. And this is how we're going to prevent it. And, it's years later that they're like, I haven't had anything. That's how we want it. We want our bodies to work optimal and work on its own. Well, God made us, and he made us really good. And we destroy it by, eating crap and staying up too late and things like that. And we have to be responsible to change it, one step at a time. We're not going to change overnight, but one step at a time. One super easy step is start taking these vitamins, and then start looking at your nutrition. We have your Thrive Code nutrition course, yourthrivecode.com nutrition, $47. That's it. We want to help as many people as we can. We could charge hundreds of dollars for that course. We're charging $47 so that everyone has a baseline of what I actually teach my own patients. So, we are trying to seriously do as much good as we can and reach as many people as we can.
Excellent.
Because we're destroying our bodies, and that's not okay.
Now, you're going to send me where I need to go to get my blood done so it can be tested, and then you can tell me about it, and then you're going to come on the air and talk about my blood.
That's right. If that's what you want to do, then that's what I'll do.
I do.
I'd be happy to.
She wants to talk to me about it off the air first, in case there's big surprises. Brannon, you have 2 days to live. Okay. Well, now let's go on the air and tell them. So anyway, she wants to do it off the air first, and then we'll bring it to you. So when are you going to send me the paperwork where I need to go to send my blood?
Yeah, I will take care of that. You are on my to-do list.
Okay.
I'm trying to look
Tina
at
says she's going to do, your sister Tina told me the other day she's going to do the same thing.
Oh yeah. Did you get your insurance information in the chart? Because we need to know where to send you.
Yeah. I'll have that. Yeah. I'll text that.
Make sure you do that. Yeah, I think that's what we're waiting on, because we haven't been able to cross it off. My nurses haven't been able to
My guess is I'm just going to pay for it out of pocket, because I have like general casualty, like major medical.
Yeah, you never know. Sometimes they pay for a general physical. So we need to at least check first.
All right. Well, then I will snap a picture of my card and send it to you. Is that what you want?
Yeah. If they do, great. If they don't, then what we do is we use a special lab that I have access to that for all of your labs, instead of thousands of dollars, it'll only be a couple $100s.
Nice.
So that's what we do for our patients. A lot of our patients don't have insurance, or they have catastrophic insurance, and so they won't get paid. And so we just do these other labs. They're equally as good. I do want to say one more thing before we leave. I know we're wrapping up. We talked about how to decrease the sympathetic nervous system, or fight or flight, and engage our parasympathetic. One of the best ways that you can do that is by humming. Okay. And I just want to make sure.
And by the way, I heard someone say the other day, I don't know why it popped up, but I saw someone say the other day, you have a hard time having a panic attack or one continuing when you're humming.
That is true. That is true. There are so many reasons for that. But one of the reasons is the vagus nerve goes right by your neck, right next to the vocal cords. So when you're vibrating the vocal cords at a beautiful rhythm, it actually has a calming effect on the vagus nerve in activating it. So that's an easy thing. If you're panic or feeling stressed, you start humming more. And I know for a fact that's going to help a lot of us out there that are, that watch something like that on TV and think, where is this world going? Like, why are the questions that we're asking are so ridiculous that and the fact that people are not seeing so much good and so much fight for this country with current administration is really, really kind of, it's frustrating to some people. And for some other people, they're anxious about it. They're anxious about what's next. And, and so really our foundation is Jesus Christ. And as long as we have a firm foundation, then everything else is secondary. But we are still human, and we're living on this earth, and we have feelings. And so I just want people to be working on that on a regular basis. That'll really help tremendously your overall health and wellness. I promise.
It reminds me of the story, Saul calling in David to play his harp. You have to wonder if Saul was humming along, because he was obviously having anxiety and stress. So he's calling in David. He's depressed. He's down, anxiety, stress. And yet the Bible tells us, that anxiety creates depression. That's in the Bible. Anxiety creates depression. And so you wonder if Saul was calling him in to play his harp and he was humming, and if that was, again, a physiological solution in part to his problem. Interesting.
And more than anything, really, with that is God calls us to cast our anxiety on him, because he cares about us. He loves us, and he'll lift us up with his righteous right arm, not ourselves, but because of him. And so when you really cast out that anxiety, that's great. But you know what? When you're in the middle of a panic attack, you're not thinking about that necessarily unless you've practiced it. So at least now you have a go-to. Sometimes we'll give people visual cues, like a bracelet, for example, that reminds them to start breathing.
Interesting.
Because honestly, when you're in the middle of a panic attack, unless you've trained, you're not going to know to do it. You're not going to remember to do it. But there's definitely things that you can do, and also having loved ones around you who can walk you through that.
Because you know what? A lot of people would go immediately to a doctor who would put them on some kind of psychotropic. And we know from Dr. Peter Breggin, psychiatrist, New York Times bestseller, who's kind of known as the conscience of the psychiatry world, because he's like, look, you get on these psychotropics, they're going to have these side effects. And sometimes it's not a side effect, it's the effect. And then he's like, then they put you on one for that, and then they put you on another one, and now you're taking 3 or 4 of these things, and you wonder why these people are crazy, right? So some people would have these panic attacks, would run to the doctor, and the doctor would put them on some kind of psychotropic, which is only going to magnify their problems, correct?
And this is a true story from someone I'm actually just working on right now, because I was actually working on a chart right before this call. 40-year-old who was put on a drug, who super active, super healthy, but it made her have neuropathies, and she actually fell down her staircase and broke her toe. Now, thank God that's all she broke. And we have been slowly tapering her off, and she's like waking up again because it had also numbed her brain. This is not something you can do quickly. You have to invest a lot of time and energy into your health and wellness. You have to look at nutrition. If I had to choose 2 things right now that could make a huge difference in your patients, get the Calm and Restore pack, do all those breathing exercises and everything we discussed, and then get that nutrition course from yourthrivecode.com, nutrition, $47. Everyone can afford it. And, and you're supporting Brannon, which I think is amazing. So And you're
Awesome.
supporting my work as well. So it gives me a chance to do more of these things.
Well, you guys see why we love Dr. Bashima Williams here, folks, right? Bringing in the medical and the Christian worldview at the same time. We appreciate her so much. myvitamin.com/worldview, myvitamin.com/worldview. Dr. Bashima Williams, thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Brandon. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
You too, my friend. Check it out, myvitamin.com/worldview. All right, join me now is Nelson with worldviewwater.net. Hey, Nelson, this was 2.5 weeks ago. My wife picked these hydrangeas and put them in the water. They normally, within a few days, she said, start to die. Look at how gorgeous they look. And
That's
this
crazy.
is now 2.5 weeks in the water that, of course, has taken out all of these chemicals that, of course, make plants die. So the point, I guess, is if this is what's happening with these flowers that are drinking in this great water, it is preserving them, how much better is it for us? Tell me what your thoughts are on this. Have you had other people that have done this, that have taken flowers, put them in water, and watched them last 2.5 weeks? This is 2.5 weeks now. Actually, it's over 2.5 weeks.
Well, you know, when you buy flowers, they give you that little package.
Yep.
Little package, they give you the flowers, you pour it in there, they last a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what they're doing is they're giving you minerals. The water, Century Water has the minerals, so you don't even need a package. That's the difference. And that's why they keep lasting a little bit longer, is because of the minerals that we're putting in the water, which goes into the plant, and plants like alkaline water.
And of course, those minerals are good for us. Now, here's the breaking news. You guys have just found out that these water filters that I have under my sink and on my shower, that you now can say that they have an additional bonus. What is that?
Hydrogen.
Hydrogen.
Hydrogenated water.
Hydrogenated water.
Right. So what we found was, and we didn't know this until we had another scientist look at it. It's amazing what these guys come up with. And they said, you're adding, or you're boosting magnesium and calcium. And I said, yeah, that's in the water. It's nothing special, right? I mean, it's in our water. We just make it more prominent. He says, that's how you create hydrogenated water. I said, what? I said, that's nuts. And he goes, now you know why when people drink this water, things happen to them positively. It's because it's hydrogenated. Hydrogenated is nothing fancy. It's been around forever. We just killed it. And when you use RO, you kill it. Reverse osmosis destroys the water. So that's what's happening now. So we just found out that we have another element to our water. And what we're waiting on from the laboratories is how much. Okay. So we're looking at this thing as probably more positive than 0.5 parts per million. So that's what we're waiting on, is the exact number. And when we have the exact number, Brannon, we're going to let you know, and then you can tell your folks that instead of just, alkaline water, you got another element that is over the top. And there's a lot of people, and we know who they are, prominent people out there trying to build devices that create hydrogenated water. It comes right from your tap.
What are the benefits of hydrogenated water?
Health benefits. It's all about the health, okay? So what happens is as you digest poor food, that creates different things in your body, like psoriasis of the skin, cancer, all these different tumors that are happening. What hydrogenated water does is, with the alkalinity in it, it combats all that. And
wow. Did you say you had a clip on it? Really? Here, watch this. Watch this, Nelson.
Really interesting study published on the Journal of Experimental Gerontology, and it was published in November of 2021. And most these clinical research studies, they'll look at younger populations, like healthier younger populations. But this actually looked at a 6-month study on hydrogen water versus non-hydrogen water in 70-year-old and older folks. And they used something called TET2 to measure methylation. They measured cognitive function, sleep scores, sit-stand ratios, how well they're able to sit and stand, telomere lengths in their chromosomes. And the really fascinating thing about this study is it was done during COVID. So these seniors were basically imprisoned, right? So they were not mobile. And the only difference between the groups that they controlled for was the presence of hydrogen water. At the end of this 6-month period during the lockdown, the control group had lost 11% in their telomeres. The non-control group had gained 4%. They had better short-term recall, better cognitive scores, better circulation, improvement in cardiac markers, improvement in inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein. I think it's the greatest biohack on earth. That and like some sea salt and some amino acids, like a perfect amino. I mean, just covering your bases. I think those are your foundational basics for optimal health.
And it's like,
wow. And those telometers, the length of the telometers, I've been hearing that's what's necessary for longevity. Have you heard that too?
I have, but let me share something with you. So hydrogenated water, you go to China, you buy this little capsule and you put it in your water and it creates hydrogenated water. Okay? I'm not into China, so I'm not really interested in that. But we thought about it, okay? Because we want to be like everybody else, What's the next step in the generation? But here's what he didn't say. What creates the body to manage itself? Magnesium and calcium. You got to have it. You cannot live without it. So when you create hydrogenated water with magnesium and calcium, you got what he was saying, all those benefits from hydrogenated water, you're getting them from the magnesium and calcium. That's what is hydrogenated water. Okay. So you throw the alkalinity on top of that, you got water that if you have things going bad in your life, that is the safest place to be. You're putting all the right elements in place. And, we're just not, we've heard this from the government. We've heard this from everybody saying alkalinity, water is good for you. And then they come back and say, well, you shouldn't have too much of it. I drink it every day. And I drink a lot of it every day. And I'll tell you something, I just don't have health problems.
Well, look at this. I looked up hydrogenated water. Its antioxidant properties. Molecular hydrogen acts as an antioxidant, helping to neutralize harmful free radicals in the body. This may reduce oxidative stress, which is linked to various chronic diseases. Got anti-inflammatory effects. It's improved your athletic performance. Athletes may experience reduced muscle fatigue and improved recovery times after consuming what is that word there? Hydrogenated water, genated water.
Yes.
Cognitive function. That may help your cognitive function. So there you go. There's a lot of benefits. Now again,
But Brannon, here's the funny thing. That's water that comes out of the creek. That's the water that's in your lake. It's mineralized water. It's all it is. And we made it into this big deal, right? Great stuff. Well, guess what, Brannon? God gave us that when the earth was made. And he knew that we had to drink this stuff every day, so he knew we were going to get all the right stuff. And then we turn around and say one day we're going to pollute the water, and we got to use a reverse osmosis to try and drink water. It's not going to, take the poisons out, right?
Because these are the poisons that man has put in the water.
Right.
So you're saying God gave us the water with this naturally in it. Man comes along, dumps fluoride and all this other stuff in there, and now we've got to take it and reverse it with your filters to put it back the way God intended for it to be, which is hydrogenated water.
Right. We pull everything you got on there, we take out. Boom, gone. All right, the fluoride, the copper, the chromium, the chlorine, the ammonia, arsenic. We pull all that out, the PFAs. All that comes out. All VOCs, pharmaceutical VOCs, we yank out. Not a problem. Okay? But we also then turn around and we boost the magnesium and calcium and take it to an alkaline state of 9.0 or 8.5 to 9.5, somewhere in that range, depending on what you got coming in the tap. And then we take it out. Because we do all that, it becomes hydrogenated water. And then we add oxygen on the front end to manage the scale. That's how we manage scales, oxygen, okay? So now it doesn't become a stone and create problems in your body. And that's what we do. Nobody manages water. They kill the water. They don't manage the water. We manage the water so when you drink this water, it does miraculous things. I can tell you stories about skin cancer. I can tell you stories about psoriasis of the skin. We don't know if it's the water, but we do know this. After they've been ingesting the water, things change. That's all we know.
Well, there you go. Cause and effect, right?
Well, because there's other causes of effect out there. If you say certain things, you don't want to say them, right? So we try to be as politically correct as we can.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you something, it changed my life. You know, how's your dog doing?
She loves it. Every time I put a bowl down, she drinks the whole bowl till it's gone.
That's what they do. Does she go to
Every
the bathroom?
time. She wants the whole bowl.
Every time?
Yep.
Does she go to the bathroom any more often than she did?
About the same.
That's right. That water goes into their body, and they're using it now. They're not just passing through a liquid. And that's the difference, guys. It's a totally different program. And your dog...
Isn't that interesting? Because I wouldn't have thought about that, but you're right. She doesn't go to the bathroom any more than she did, but she is consuming more water than my other Labradors have ever consumed, because that's what she wants to do. But you're right. She doesn't seem to be urinating any more than a normal lab.
And that crazy nose of hers, she can smell what's in that water. You can't, but she can. She knows what she's drinking. And that's why she won't drink tap water, because she can smell the poisons in it. And that's the thing about animals. They're so much smarter than we are. We take, we go, oh, dude, let's just take it because it looks clean. It doesn't smell bad, right? But what's in it is they can actually see and smell. We have dogs that are up in age. And our dog, we had a dog 2 weeks ago who passed away. She was 17 years old. And
wow.
She was as big as your lab at 17. And she didn't have a tumor. She didn't have cancer. She just passed away from old age.
Wow, I'd love to have that as a problem.
We do. We're looking forward to that. I got a husky, 11 years old, thinks it's a puppy. It dances for the water. On its back legs, she dances for water. And you well know, as I do, that big dogs, their back legs go out first, right? That's where they when that happens, then, you're looking at the watch, right?
Right.
And at 11, we lose our huskies in the past at around 11 years old. And this puppy, she literally will do flips after she drinks a bowl of water at night before she goes to bed.
And also, Nelson, the filters. How often do you have to replace the filters? Because some of our folks have had these a while now. We're getting the filters at worldviewwater.net for the replacement filters. How often do they need to replace the filters?
All right.
Units.
We recommend once a year. Okay. But if you live in an area where the water is pretty rough, and you can smell, or maybe you'll taste something different in your water, replace the filters.
Okay.
Okay. But once a year, and what goes bad on filters is not the product itself, it's the carbon. Carbon has, from the minute it's open to the elements, it has about a 1 year shelf life. So that's why we recommend that. Other than that, they could last for who knows how long, but we don't want people to take a chance and be drinking anything that's not the best of the best.
And so those replacement filters are now at worldviewwater.net, folks. Worldviewwater.net. Some of you have said, hey, where do I get the replacement filters? We've got them up there now for you to get them. And so if you've had that unit about a year, or if it's been 9 months, your water's really rough, as he said. It's been 9 months and it's now starting to taste not normal. It's starting to taste like those chemicals again, smell funny. Then it's time to get a new filter in there. So again, they're available at worldviewwater.net. Now again, what I have is the one that goes under the kitchen sink. That's that one right there in the middle, or this one right here. That I have that under the kitchen sink. And then the one that's in my shower is this one on the far bottom right. That's my shower to filter out all those chemicals, which I think is, again, really done wonders for Melissa's hair. She's really quite happy about that, by the way. I don't know if you hear that from other ladies or not.
We hear it all the time. Their skin and their hair is totally different set of rules now, right? So we recommend it. I even got guys that are saying I wouldn't go without it. They're like, it's a game changer. Nobody wants chlorine on their body.
Yeah,
that's personal.
Well, my hair growth has been really amazing the last couple of years. I know my Bella Grace has played a major role with that collagen and all that in it. But I think it's a combination of also my Gatatana, which is giving me good nutrition at the cellular level, the detoxing with my Numi, that glutathione, that takes out the toxins. And then you add the water. Now I'm not washing my hair in all these pesticides and chemicals. So I think it's a combination of just good health all around, and it's manifesting itself in hair growth, thickness like I've not had in years, the last year or so.
Well, hey, Brannon, I don't know if you're aware of this. Yeah, you are, but we're going to be coming out with a new a new product, okay? Actually, it's a couple new products. And we're going to be able to take bacteria and parasites out of the water without using chlorine or ammonia. Okay?
Excellent.
It's a paper filter. But this new product we're going to be coming out is a portable unit, and we're going to have that up on the website within the next week. You're going to get a sample of it.
And we're going to have you back when it's ready.
Yes, and it's amazing. You can use it for your camper. You can use it for prepping, and you can use it for horses. It was designed for a horse industry, you know, so they can fill the troughs off with water. And here's the funniest thing, guys. I mean, we all talk about the water, right? Horses got the biggest nose I ever seen, right? I mean, horse nose is huge. And I've come to find out we have friends that own one of these jumpers, you know, it's a champion jumping horse. And they're like, oh, no, our horse will only drink. They got to carry water on the top of their trailer because they won't drink water other than its own water in its own bucket. So I put a bucket down next with my water in it. I guess you want to call it my water. And we watched the horse. It smelled the water in its bucket, smelled the water in my bucket, and it drank 2.5 gallons of our water and wouldn't touch the water. And the owners were like, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. And it was amazing. And they said, hey, you know, from here going forward, it's just Century water. We're not going to feed it. And you think about it, you have this horse that's worth a lot of money, and you're feeding it poison, literally poison, right? Chlorine and ammonia is poison. If you take all the other elements out, we know they're putting fluoride, chlorine, and ammonia in the water, and then you're giving that to your horse. I think that's kind of crazy in its
well, I think it's crazy that we take it in, right?
Well, we do what we're told, though, Brannon. You do what you're told. Most people do what they're told, right? We were told bottled water was a pinnacle of water, were we not? We were told that, you know, RO systems was the new standard for water. When I grew up, I drank out of a hose. Today, you drink, you know, from an RO system. And then we find out that dead water is dead water. And you can't drink and live on dead water, right? So then we started adding all these other things in. We're wondering why we're sick. And for the sake of a glass of water, here's what happened. So my brother, he's got a daughter, and she's got psoriasis of the skin. Bad. And the doctors are putting her on this medicine and that medicine, and nothing's helping. And I said, well, I've had other people tell me that after drinking the water, things have changed in that ballpark. So I gave him one of my systems. I get a call today, and he goes, she's been drinking it for a week now, and it's starting to digress. It's going away. We don't know why. But he says it's going away. And those are miracles, I think, you know. And God gave us water, did he not? I mean, that's part of the plan. You can only live 4 days out without a glass of water. He put all the stuff in the water because he knew everybody was going to drink water. Everybody drink. You know, who do you know does not drink water?
Right.
I mean, I don't know one person. Who do you know won't eat a hamburger? I know a lot of people. So you see, you got vegetarians, you got meat eaters, you got, you know, all these different other platforms. But when it comes down to your liquid consumption, it's water. Coffee, water. You know, iced tea, water. Everything has water in it. He knew that. So he gave us all the minerals in the water. And then we, because we're smarter than him, take them all out.
And now that we take them out, we then add all these poisons like fluoride and other garbage, which we know has serious problems. So there you go.
know.
Worldviewwater.net. And we're going to have you back next week when the new product's out for the portable and the prepper and the one for people's RVs. We'll get you back on all that. But in the meantime, again, look at what it does for these beautiful hydrangeas. 2.5 weeks now. My wife said normally within a few days they're dying. This is 2.5 weeks in that beautiful water. If it's doing this for these gorgeous hydrangeas, what's it doing for your body, right?
Did you look at the water though, Brannon? It looks 3D. It's got a depth to it. There's something, it doesn't look like, see how shiny it is? How it doesn't look like normal water from here. That's the difference. It's the minerals in that water. Give it that depth. Totally different animal.
Yep. Well, there you go. Worldviewwater.net. Worldviewwater.net. Hope you'll check it out, folks. Thank you, Nelson.
Thank you, Brannon.
Worldviewwater.net, folks.
Bye-bye.
All right. Before we go tonight, I want to remind you about how much I believe in Bella Grace. Look at this, folks. This is the picture I've shown you guys several times before. My hand's cracking and bleeding. And this is actually a good picture. This is on what is pretty much a moderate day compared to what my hands had done. So I'm not even showing you the worst picture I could. But but my hands would crack and bleed horrifically for years. Some kind of eczema, obviously. And it didn't stop until I got on the Bella Grace. That's when it finally stopped. December of 2023, a few weeks after getting on board. Remember, your stomach lining is made of collagens, what Dr. Lucky and so many others tell us. Apparently I had a leaky gut. So when I got on it, it quit. And then guess what else? I haven't had to take a Pepcid since December of 2023. My acid reflux stopped, okay? So many wonderful things have happened for me. Hair growth has been great. No acid reflux. Hands don't crack and bleed. Lots of positives for me. How about for you? Okay, check it out. It's the real deal. There are 80 clinical trials behind this product. 80 clinical trials. It's available at melissahousebg.com. Get a subscription and save. Get a subscription. Have it show up so you don't miss out on it arriving at your door. melissahousebg.com. melissahousebg.com. Remember, there are 80 clinical trials. Of course, Melissa's on the Bella Trim. She loves that. This is known for taking on that stubborn belly fat. She loves the Bella Trim. One more down there. She loves it. And it's also, according to many studies, great for your heart. Now she loves the skincare as well. So Melissa is very sold on the skincare and the Bella Trim. And of course, then there's the restorative sleep. And we're getting some good reviews from many of you in our audience on that as well. All of it's available at melissahousebg.com, melissahousebg.com. Don't forget also about going to Melissa House GPA, melissahousegpa.com. That's the Gatatana. One little scoop is equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. Yep. And Dolly gets a half a scoop on her food. I take a scoop in water every day. And I think it works so well with my Bella Grace. But you know what else works well with the Bella Grace and the Gatatana? The New Me. These are the three things I do every day. Bella Grace, New Me, and Gatatana. This New Me, of course, has glutathione in it to detox your cells. And we know there are toxins everywhere, right? As much as we try to avoid them, they're even in the air. And studies show that glutathione may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. So check it all out. If you want to know where all the various individual links are for these great products, you can go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors, and you'll find them all there. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Great ways, I think, to support your health and us at the same time. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. All right, roll the music. Let's call it a night. Hey, and don't forget about Worldview Talk. Worldview Talk, where you can get your satellite phone. So should something happen to our power grid or the cell towers, or even if you just go into an area that doesn't have good cell coverage, or you're out camping or hiking, you want to make sure you have good cell coverage. I have a satellite phone. I said cell coverage, but I meant to say where you don't have good cell coverage. Then that's when you use the satellite phone, right? Again, the minutes roll over, so they stack up. That's very generous of Tina that she does that. So check out worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com for your satellite phones, your solar generators. You can also get a Starlink there for free. If you sign up for one of their very reasonable monthly plans for just a 12-month contract, you get Starlink for free, and they have portable Starlink as well. I have one of those. All right, may God save America. Take care.
You are watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon Howse. You are watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon Howse.
With us on this Thursday, June 19th, 2025. Well, last night, while many of us were trying to get to sleep here in the Central and over on the East Coast time zone, if you had your Red Alert app, it started going off and going off and going off, and it went on and on. Well, I finally had to check and see what's going on. So I was trying to get to bed.